cancelled if there's a repeat of yesterday's appalling weather conditions. David Coulthard is warning that someone could be killed if heavy rain hits the race this afternoon. Here's Ian Abrahams.
David Coulthard and Damon Hill said it'll be too dangerous to race if conditions are the same as yesterday, when rain ruined qualifying, effectively turning it into a French farce. The Brazilian Rubens Barrichello made light of the conditions, taking pole position, his second, the first ever for the Stewart Ford team. The title contenders struggled though, with championship leader and world champion Mika Häkkinen 14th, and Michael Schumacher, normally a master in the wet, coming off. Eventually though, he took 6th place on the grid. Racing commentator Murray Walker believes,
"Oh, the race will go ahead, there's no doubt about that at all, but I'm expecting it to start dry and then to have some rain during the race and probably dry out afterwards."
Conditions for the crowd at Manicourt may be uncomfortable this afternoon, but they should see one of the best races of the year. Ian Abrahams, ITN.
I'll be back with more news at 20.
Hello, good afternoon. Well, Formula One fans will know that the atmosphere at a Grand Prix is always electric. It may be just a little too electric down over France this afternoon. There's quite a high risk of a thundery shower down at Manicourt. They've had some heavy rain this morning, which has moved away. It's dry just now, I think, but the chance of showers this afternoon really is quite high.
Grand Prix.
Wins in Montreal.
World champion Mika Häkkinen back on top after a rare unforced error by his greatest rival.
And Michael Schumacher is threading his way through the field. Mark Schumacher out of the race.
Embarrassed in Canada, but Schumacher comes to France as the main man. He's triumphed 4 times in the last 5 years.
Multitude de cadeaux à l'occasion du Grand Prix de Formule 1. Radio Nevers, l'essentiel, comme ça. Au karting de Nevers-Manicourt.
The Manicourt circuit in central France was underwater for qualifying yesterday, and now it's gloomy. Showers are forecast as we gear up for the French Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to ITV's coverage of the 7th Grand Prix of the season. Tony Jardine is with me. Good afternoon, Tony.
Afternoon.
We are not in our normal trackside studio, as you will undoubtedly have noticed, but I'm sure that won't affect the quality of your entertainment coming up over the next 2 hours. There is plenty to look forward to, believe me, even before those red lights go out. Damon Hill's approaching the end of the Formula One road. We've an extensive and very frank interview. Coming right up, your first opportunity to see the best action from the qualifying session. We drive the smooth Manicourt circuit with the Benetton of Alexander Wurz. Martin Brundle's your track guide. Follow that, the message from Canada, with the thrills and spills from Montreal. And it's your last chance to enter our competition and win a magnificent VIP weekend at the RAC British Grand Prix in a fortnight. And conditions for qualifying at Manicourt were very similar to Silverstone last year. You can see for yourselves very shortly. Damon Hill has only just made it into the race as we were coming to terms with the decision that this is going to be Damon Hill's last season in Formula One. James Allen has been looking into the reasons for that.
We didn't know it at the time, but his ignominious exit from the Canadian Grand Prix a fortnight ago was to prove the final straw for Damon Hill. As he left the track, a plan formed in his mind and 2 days later he made it public. He would retire at the end of the season. Pride was a big factor in the decision. When you've fulfilled all your ambitions, beaten the best in the world and touched the stars, it's hard to accept life amongst the also-rans. Damon's has been a career full of glittering prizes. Few drivers win the World Championship. Fewer still make it into the all-time top 10 for wins and pole positions. The victory in Spa last year and the end-of-season flourish underlined the promise of Damon and Jordan. But Honda's decision to go with British American Racing rather than Jordan in the year 2000 was a hammer blow to Damon's hopes of being a regular winner again. On top of that, he struggled with the new regulations and the four-groove tyres. Damon is a technical driver. He relies on the feel from the tyres to be able to push the car to the limit, and these hard Bridgestones just aren't talking to him. The pleasure has gone from driving. He's been out-qualified and outperformed by his teammate Heinz-Harald Frentzen, without whom Jordan would not be third in the constructors' table. It all added up to one conclusion.
It's just time. I think that I've come to the conclusion that on balance, enjoyment that I get out of it and my competitiveness has slipped below a level which I find acceptable. So I think it's best to come clean and say I'm going to stop at the end of the year.
The Formula One world was surprised that Damon decided to announce his retirement now, but race on until the end of the season, rather than stop immediately. He says that if poor form threatens Jordan's championship hopes, he and Eddie will have to review the situation. But there are grounds for optimism. The upcoming tracks like Silverstone, Hungary, Spa and Suzuka are amongst his favourites, and we're overdue a wet race which would negate Damon's problems with the tyres. Perhaps now, with the weight off his shoulders, he can rediscover his form and get some results. He certainly seems happier and more relaxed this weekend. In 1992, the world knew nothing of a driver called Damon Hill. 7 years on, a champion and a national hero retires.
Thank you, James. We'll have more from Damon himself in a couple of minutes. And by the way, we will be paying him a special tribute during our British Grand Prix coverage from Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time. Well, now, that qualifying session. It took place in shocking conditions in the Loire Valley. Louise Goodman reporting.
After 2 days of brilliant sunshine, there was a definite downturn in conditions as the clock ticked down for the start of qualifying. But few could imagine the drama which lay ahead. John Lacey was the first man out to test the waters, but with the weathermen predicting that the rain would stop midway through the session, the majority of teams elected to keep their drivers in the pits. Rubens Barrichello's instincts told him not to trust the weathermen. He persuaded his engineers to let him out for an early run, and those instincts proved right.
It's just fantastic that we had done a lap, actually, because it looks like it's getting darker and darker.
It was. Instead of clearing, the rain got heavier and heavier. For 20 minutes, the crowd sat in the rain and the drivers sat in the dry, waiting for the downpour to ease. Panis could breathe easy, though. An early runner put him into third. Eventually, the cars began to emerge.
The first McLaren on track, David Coulthard coming out for a go, and really
in his powerboat.
There was so much standing water, the full wet Bridgestones were unable to cope. Cars aquaplaned off the track, left, right and centre, including Alessandro Zanardi, who had to run back to the pits for the spare after his second spin. Even the very best of them were struggling. Michael Schumacher, the acknowledged rainmeister, looked decidedly ill at ease with the conditions. Meanwhile, his championship rival Mika Häkkinen was even more cautious.
Häkkinen's cruising. Häkkinen looks as if he just doesn't want to press the throttle. Look, 13 seconds off the pace.
The Finn ended way down in 14th, and Eddie Irvine had all sorts of problems too. He finished 16th.
Oh, and he's lost it again, just cruising around the last corner.
And this is the man who won in Australia.
There was even more trouble for Damon Hill. It wasn't just the rain. All the elements were conspiring against him. Water and 2 fires from broken exhausts spelt drama for the Jordan man.
Here's Johnny Herbert, who's been going very, very much better.
Herbert coped pretty well with the conditions, but with 30 minutes to go, there were still 10 drivers outside 107% of pole time and struggling to get into the race. No such problems for the stewards, though. Johnny ended up 9th, but the star of the day was Barrichello, whose impeccable timing brought a second career pole and a first for the Stewart team. An extraordinary session and 2 Frenchmen in the top 3.
Actually, my first lap, I was telling Jean, I saw him doing a time which was like 2 seconds faster, and I said, you know, I must push on this lap because it could be now or never.
Obviously, I feel extremely happy. It's my 10th anniversary here. I start in '89 in Paul Ricard, so for me it's the biggest present I can get.
I'm very happy for this position. I'm sure tomorrow the race is quite difficult, but for us it's very big improvement, and I like the wet condition because the car is very drivable under wet condition. Okay, this position for us is fantastic.
I managed to wrestle the pole sitter from the arms of his ecstatic boss and grab a word.
We had said with my two engineers and Gary, we had decided to go early. But when I entered the car, they said, oh, let's wait for a couple of cars to go out and clean the track. Then I accept the idea, but then when I saw Jean Alessi going, I said, no, time to go, there's time to go, because I just wanted to put a lap before anything happened. I mean, it could be drier at the end, which wouldn't affect my position anyway, because I would still have 8 laps to do, but I wanted to set that lap, and he was saying today it paid off.
So Barrichello leads out the pack, and it's well shuffled. 2 Frenchmen in the top 3 for the first time in almost 6 years, and no McLaren on the front row for the first time in 13 races. Coulthard starts from 4th. Frenzen's in 5th, and Michael Schumacher completes row 3. Fisichella and Trulli next, ahead of Johnny Herbert and Ricardo Zonta. That's his best ever grid position. The second Sauber is down in 11th, and then it's Zonta's teammate Jacques Villeneuve. Wirtz is on row 7. He's been there before this season, but not so Mika Hakkinen. 14th is his worst grid position since Argentina 1997. Both Williams struggled, and Eddie Irvine's grid position is his worst in 27 starts. Damon Hill was the first of 5 drivers who failed to get within 107% of pole time. The Arrows and the Minardis failed to qualify too, but the stewards deemed the circumstances to be exceptional, so all 5 will be allowed to take the start.
Thank you, Lise, and of course all of us on ITV are extremely sorry we were unable to show you that qualifying session in full yesterday. Right, Tony, upside down grid, tactical errors from the big boys or what?
Major blunders by the weather forecasters. I think the big boys weather forecasters got it all wrong, but the Prost team, they had Pascal Splash Delot.
Personal mate of yours, eh?
Yeah, but a different guy, and he said, no, it's not going to ease off, you better get out there, and Prost got up to 3rd place on the grid. And when the rain was at its heaviest, David Coulthard was at his fastest, and he was at home in the conditions.
Could be a good race, this one, for David Coulthard, do you think?
I think it could be a great race for him. He's a great British prospect there in 4th place. He's great in the wet. He's way ahead of his teammates, so yeah.
What about little Rubens Barrichello, first pole ever for the Stewart team? Is it going to be the first win?
It could possibly be. They've been so competitive, and the car is very good. They haven't changed anything on the car from the dry settings to wet settings, just a little bit on the wing, and out they went. And also his wife won a new gold Rolex watch from Jackie Stewart for her husband's performance on the track.
Not one of those dodgy watches, was it, Jackie
no,
carries
from
around?
Hong Kong. No, of course, well, it wouldn't be. But we mustn't forget Rubens did this before in '94 for Jordan in wet, dry conditions.
Yeah,
he's a bit of a master.
OK, thank you, Tony. Let me just remind you of how things stand in the Drivers' Championship. Mika Hakkinen back on top, 4 points clear of Michael Schumacher. Irvine really impressive in 3rd. Fisichella, Frentzen, Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher in a very competitive scrap. And in the Constructors' Championship, well, Ferrari's lead now down to 9 points. Jordan, Benetton and Williams are jostling for 3rd. OK, now then our regular Murray Meets feature. Murray patrolling the F1 paddock, looking for the key characters in the world of Formula 1, and no prizes for guessing his target this week.
So who would you be expecting me to talk to this weekend of all weekends? Well, Damon Hill, of course. And the whole paddock's been after him, but I've got him. Everyone wants to know why he's retiring. So why are you retiring?
Don't think I'd tell you, Murray, do you? After all that. I think that it's just time. I think that I've come to the conclusion that on balance, enjoyment that I get out of it and my competitiveness has slipped below a level which I find acceptable. So I think it's best to come clean and say I'm going to stop at the end of the year.
Did it just happen, zoom, like that one morning, or have you been churning it over in your mind for some time?
No, I think Formula One's a very challenging environment. It's a tough environment, and anyone who finds themselves in the hot seat or has had good times and is, you know, trying to find good times again, is faced with a lot of questions all the time, and so that's a strain that runs through Formula One. And when you come into Formula One, there's nothing more you want to do. You just want to drive, you want to get to the front. But I've been to the top, and I'm trying to get back to the top, but I'm finding it more difficult, and I'm not getting any younger.
I'll tell you one thing that surprised me a bit, Damon, not so much that you decided to retire, but that you decided to announce it now. There's 6 races completed, there's 10 races to go. What motivated you to say, at this point, that's it?
You have to see this in the context of the way I see it, which is that being 38, I've been racing a long time now,
sure,
and I've been racing a long time outside of Formula One. You know, I would have liked my career to have started in Formula One at the age of 22, like Rubens or like Ralf Schumacher.
Like been scooting around in carts in your childhood.
So you know, I didn't get that early break, and so it's been quite a tough old time getting up to Formula One, and you know, I want to carry on, but I do not want to be seen plodding around the back, and I don't want to see for my own self-esteem, I don't want to be round the back.
Right, very understandable, but talking of tough, trying times ahead, you've still got 10 races to go, and you've decided you're going to retire at the end of the season, and you've made your announcement you're going to retire. Isn't there a danger of losing motivation for those remaining 10 races?
Well, I think there was definitely a danger of being under the microscope to the extent where I just would not have been able to drive or carry on if I had not made the announcement. So at least I've given myself the opportunity between now and the end of the season to get that off my back and get out there and just concentrate on racing.
Right, well, here we are now. I say 10 races to go. At the end of the season, that's going to be it. You're out of Formula One. You've won 22 Grand Prix. You've been world champion. You're still only 38, 39 years old. You've hopefully got at least 40 years ahead of you.
Yeah.
What then?
Well, maybe I should speak to you for advice, Murray.
No, there's no danger of you wanting to be a television commentator.
No, I haven't got that in mind at all. I just
very trying, demanding, difficult job.
Yeah, but you know, there's got to be an end, and I do not want to wither out, you know, and be an embarrassment to myself, you know, in Formula One. And I just feel I'm not getting that really top-notch performance out of myself, and I'm not getting younger. So, you know, I'm certainly not old. I'm still young enough to do other things.
Well, Britain and most of the world is going to regret your decision. Understand it, maybe regret it, but yes, certainly. This is your 7th year. You've had a lot of highs, you've had a lot of lows, won the World Championship. Do you have any regrets?
None, no. I've enjoyed every minute of it, honestly, and I want to remember it that way. I don't want to, you know, have a sour taste in my mouth. I mean, I really love Formula One. I've loved everything I've done in Formula One. It's been a fantastic experience, and you know, it's good to cut here.
Hopes and ambitions for the rest of this season?
I want to go out on a high. I want to get on the podium. That'd be nice.
It says on your chest, Damon, there was a chance to go down in history as the first man to win a race in a Jordan car. You did it.
Thank you, Mark.
Well
Indeed he did, and we will miss him. Don't worry about that. Now then, Damon. Getting ahead of myself. Tony, you know Damon very well. You've known his family for years and years and years. Give us an insight as to why he's packed it in.
If I can have Damon's car, he can have my seat. I don't mind. First of all, Michael Schumacher said he did the perfect job, so that's very important. But what we've got to remember, the guy needs to give 110%. If he can only give 95% now, that means a difference of a second. It means 5th place to 17th place. It means his concentration isn't quite there. He's thought hard about this. He's a deep thinker. He's a committed family man. I'm sure he's made the right decision, but I hope he doesn't do it after Silverstone.
Would we be having this conversation if he'd been on the podium a couple of times this year?
No, there's no question, because that's what he needed. He needed a couple of good results, but the Heinz-Harald Frentzen factor has also knocked him further down. It's knocked his confidence a bit. He did say he was surprised by the performance of the German, who after all nicked his job at Williams as well.
You don't agree then with the speculation, a lot of it in this morning's papers, it will be Silverstone
and out for Damon?
No, I think from the team's perspective, they can persuade him to stay on, because one of the things is Eddie Jordan said, please don't, we need you to help us get that third place in the Constructors for the first time. And I hope he'll see sense, especially after a bad qualifying session like that, and turn it around.
OK, Tony, thanks very much indeed. Well, I can tell you the teams are very familiar with Manicourt. They test there on a regular basis. In fact, 9 of the 11 teams were there last week. Martin Brundle knows the place pretty well as well. He spent 2 years there while he was with the Ligier team. Here's Martin then talking you round, and it's Alexander Wurz at the wheel of the 98 Benetton.
The French Grand Prix, very much in the middle of the country, Manicourt near Nevers. 4¼ kilometres, 2.64 miles and a 72-lap race. One of the smoothest racetracks in the world. Let's take a lap with Alexander Wurz. Through Lycée, the last corner, there's the timing line. You're into the start-finish straight and immediately up to 165 miles an hour for the left-hander, grand curve. Don't lift the throttle, but it's very narrow on the exit, feeding you straight into Estoril. Down to 110 miles an hour, let the car run into the middle, bring it back in again. Hear the confidence he has to floor the throttle down the back straight. 2.64 miles here in Manicourt, a very technical circuit. Up to 180 miles an hour. Now look at the deceleration as he hits the brakes 110 metres before the corner. Be patient, Alexander. Now he's got a good line. Now he can floor the throttle. Up to 175 miles an hour again now. Looking for Nürburgring chicane. Where is it? 110. Balance the throttle. Nicely done. Bring the car in early for 180-degree corner. The grip's on the inside, then take the curb on the left. Now he again has the confidence. It's easily flat out through here, building up to 170 miles an hour before Imola. Seen of many big accidents. The track falls away. 110. Balancing the throttle nicely. Bring it to the left. Ready for Chateau d'Eau, the water tower, the right-hander. Second gear, 50 miles an hour. Oh, way too aggressive on the throttle. Now look for a braking point on the racetrack. You can't see the chicane, the next corner. Aim the car between the curbs. It tends to unsettle the rear. A quick squirt on the throttle. Once again into Lycée, just 40 miles an hour. There's that timing line. You're into a new lap.
Thank you, Martin. It's a very different proposition in the wet, and look at those clouds looming over the Manicourt circuit. 25 minutes to go to the off in the French Grand Prix. Still very gloomy, and the forecasters there are saying it will rain during the race. Damon, with plenty to do, starting, well, where he hates to be, really, way down the back, in 18th in the Jordan, and looking pretty serious about it. Didn't enjoy the qualifying session one little bit. Coming right up, thrilling memories of the last race in Canada, and a reminder after the French Grand Prix, your last chance to win that VIP weekend at Silverstone. Allez, Jean Alesi, his 10th anniversary since he came into Formula One. Terrific present for him, right up there on the front row of the grid. He says it's a dream, and a lot of those French supporters will be hoping that Jean Alesi has a really good race. He had a very nasty accident in practice on Friday. OK, let's update you now with the main stories from the F1 world, and Louise Goodman has some very important dates for your diary next year.
There are a number of controversial changes to next year's calendar, according to the provisional list of events published by the World Motorsport Council last Wednesday. Malaysia now takes the place of the Australian Grand Prix as the season opener, a move which has upset the Melbourne organisers. The French race has been shifted from July to early May, and is followed by the Nürburgring, which has lost its traditional September date to the US Grand Prix. Silverstone is scheduled for the 2nd of July. That's the same date as the final of the European Football Championships. F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone is recovering at home after a successful coronary artery bypass graft. Meanwhile, Ecclestone's recent call for a return to slick tyres has been echoed by Damon Hill, who cited the current tyre and design regulations as being a large factor in his recent decision to retire.
The balance, in my view, is not right with regard to the mechanical tyre grip that we get and the aerodynamic grip. So I think the racing suffers. I think places like Manicourt are very similar to places like Barcelona, and I think you'll find that in Manicourt the same thing will apply. It'll be difficult to overtake.
Alan Prost has appointed a new technical director. Alan Jenkins, formerly with Stewart Grand Prix, took up his new appointment earlier this week. And finally, Ferrari have made some significant aerodynamic changes to their car for this race. The revised engine cover, wings and radiator air intakes are designed to give better straight-line speed and improve airflow into the radiators.
Thank you, Louise, and all of us involved with ITV's Formula One coverage wish Bernie Ecclestone a speedy and complete recovery. Right, Tony, you have some points you want to make about Fast Eddie Irvine.
Well, just thinking there's 7 drivers out of contract at the end of the year, and Eddie Irvine still hasn't heard or had an offer about rejoining Ferrari for next year. And with Damon Hill going, there's been a lot of suggestion that he'll go back to his spiritual home at Jordan Grand Prix. But Eddie Jordan told the media on Friday that there's no way that he's coming back here. He'd be better off staying at Ferrari. But then there are more rumours. Because of Eddie's brilliant performances so far this year, it seems that that's irked Michael Schumacher, and he may well be agitating for a new partner at Ferrari. The latest is perhaps a straight swap between Rubens Barrichello going to Ferrari and Eddie Irvine going to Stewart. With the might of Ford coming behind Jackie Stewart, that's not a bad suggestion, is it?
You expecting lots of overtaking this afternoon?
Oh yeah, with that topsy-turvy grid, and if it stays dry for the early part, it's going to be absolutely great. Hakkinen, Irvine, Hill coming through, it's going to be tremendous.
It will be tremendous. The French Grand Prix is right around the corner. Canada, well, that's some act to follow.
In Canada, it is go! Michael Schumacher moves across, cuts across. Hakkinen, Eddie Irvine trying to go on the inside, failing to do so. Are they all going to get around this one? That's it. It's a Prost again. Jarno Trulli has gone off, but hopefully they'll be able to keep the race going. Oh, and off goes Zonta. That's Ricardo Zonta in the BAR.
Safety car's out, Murray.
Schumacher goes, Hakkinen goes, Irvine goes, Coulthard goes, Fisichella goes. There's the patch where the BAR was. Damon Hill out of the race. Damon Hill retiring. Schumacher out of the race. Michael Schumacher slams out of turn 13. Villeneuve out. Jacques Villeneuve, who I was talking about, has done exactly the same thing that Michael Schumacher did. Coulthard challenges. David Coulthard passes Eddie Irvine. No, he doesn't. Out goes Irvine. Out goes Coulthard. Oh my goodness. Mika Hakkinen out on his own. Great stuff. Eddie Irvine is scything his way through the field. Oh, pass! Johnny Herbert goes Eddie Irvine all over the place. They both go over the apex of turn 13, and Eddie Irvine's gigantic push has succeeded. And off goes Princeton. Well, right in the closing stages of the Canadian Grand Prix. And I think we're going to see, for the first time ever, a Grand Prix finish behind the safety car. Mika Hakkinen wins in Montreal.
Absolutely brilliant race that. More of the same will do just fine at Manicourt this afternoon. Let's join our commentators, Martin Brundle, and say a very good afternoon to Murray Walker. Hi, Murray.
So here we are at Manicourt, and I can tell you I've seen some dramatic qualifying sessions in my time, but few anything like as dramatic as yesterday. In fact, my heart is in my mouth now thinking of what's going to happen during this race. Look, for instance, at the skies above you. Look at the track, it's dry. When we got here this morning, it was absolutely lashing down with rain. There have been some subsidiary races, and during that time, the track has dried out, but the sky overhead is not only dull and overcast, but out of your sight, there are some massive rain clouds. And if it doesn't rain during this race, I shall be very surprised indeed. And what a grid! Rubens Barrichello, as you've already heard, in pole position for the second time in his career, the first time since 1954 in the Jordan. David Coulthard, a hot World Championship contender, he's in 6th position at the present moment, 4th on the grid behind Jean Lacey, 2nd in the Sauber, and Olivier Panis 3rd in the Prost. And then down in 6th position, Michael Schumacher. So there's a McLaren ahead of a Ferrari. Mika Hakkinen, 14th on the grid. He's got it all to do on a circuit where it's very, very difficult indeed to pass. Eddie Irvine in the second Ferrari. The man who won the Australian Grand Prix and is third in the World Championship is starting 17th ahead of Damon Hill, who actually failed to qualify because of the adverse weather conditions. He's been allowed in, as you've already heard from Louise, the two Arrows and the two Minardi drivers. So it's very much a lottery, Martin.
Yes, it is. A lot of the teams are expecting some rain through the race. I'm just looking at the humidity. It's 69% at the moment. I noticed yesterday it was 96% during that torrential downpour on our computer here. So it doesn't look anything like as threatening as that. But I know a lot of teams have been informed it could rain about an hour into the race. And Michael Schumacher's been quite smart. He's been lapping around on his new tyres. Of course, they didn't use any new tyres in qualifying yesterday, new slick tyres, the dry weather tyres yesterday. And he's been what they call cold scrubbing them. There's Eddie Irvine walking off to the gents. No, it's Michael Schumacher actually walking off to the gents, I'd imagine. They preload so much fluid here to make sure that the body's giving its maximum potential through the race, and almost all the drivers will be trotting off to do that. But Michael cold scrubbing his tyres, because if you have to go out onto a semi-wet dry track later in the race, you don't want to be on brand new tyres. There's a releasing agent on them. There's a bit of a shine on the top that takes a few corners to get off, and it's very easy to slide off the racetrack in that situation. So Schumacher already got his brain into gear. You're looking at Diniz, that tape on his ear is to hold the moulded air piece in. We all wear those. I'm surprised some drivers need them taped, but as you get a bit dehydrated later in the race or shaking around over some curbs, they can sometimes just drop out, and it sounds like your engine has blown up. You get a tremendous change of engine noise if the air plug is unseated, but they are moulded to fit the driver's ear individually.
So, what does Rubens Barrichello want? Well, he's pretty happy, actually, whatever happens, because he's very good in the wet, extremely good in the wet. Those of you who remember watching the Donington Grand Prix in 1993 will probably primarily remember, as you watch Johnny Herbert, that quite incredible first lap by Ayrton Senna. But Rubens Barrichello, his countryman, was almost as impressive. So if it's wet, Barrichello is going to be pretty happy. But he really wants a dry race. If he can get away in the lead, Alesi and Panis may well block David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher, who is starting behind them, which could allow Rubens Barrichello, who's got this extremely powerful new Ford V10 engine behind him, to break away and build up a lap. But as ever in this race, strategy is going to be terribly important. Most drivers, I think, are going to be making a two-stop strategy. It's not inconceivable that there'll be three.
Could be. I think in the perfect world you'd want to change your tyres here 3 times, but you need track position as well. But this afternoon is a different situation. Because they are expecting rain, they have to put enough fuel in to get them to a window really later on in the race. They don't want to short fuel the car and then find they stop for fuel and 2 laps later have to stop for a change of tyres. So they really want to get as far as they can and compromise really their race to try and save a pit stop later on. You can see all sorts of pumps and pipes going into the car, forcing air through the car. You get a heat soak on the grid after they've done their warm-up lap or laps. They are allowed to pass through the pits before they go back, before they park officially and finally on the grid. And everything tends to build up as the car's sitting there, so they plumb a lot of air into it, put dry ice in the side pods, and anything they can do to keep the temperature of that car down.
So Michael Schumacher back, and we're going for a break. Manicourt, France. 5 minutes to go to the start of the 1999 French Grand Prix, the last in France of the millennium. And there is absolutely no doubt at all, because of the fragmented nature of the grid, that it's going to be a quite incredible race. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the safety car coming out because of rain coming down.
Well, we'll have to see. The weather will obviously make its own mind up later on, but I do tend to agree with you, Mary. If we have the amount of standing water we had yesterday, they have two types of wets, a soft and a hard, but none of them have any deeper grooves, and the cars just cannot clear the standing water. You're seeing the Mercedes-Benz safety car going round there now. The significance of that is they've clearly decided not to start the race using it, so it's now going to be parked at the back, and it's obvious to see why, because the track is bone dry. But that is a procedural thing as he goes round to form up behind the cars as an emergency vehicle off the start. There's one guy, I think, who it is a topsy-turvy grid, but I think Barrichello has got a car underneath him that's fast enough, wet or dry, to actually have a pretty good run at this race. I don't think, frankly, that Alesi's car, he's on the front row of the grid and getting a good luck shake there from boss Peter Sauber. I don't think Alesi or Panis have quite got the speed to fend off Coulthard, Michael Schumacher and people like that coming through who are a bit out of position on the grid after that wild qualifying session yesterday. So surprised to see Barrichello with a dark visor on there. And that's a big problem if it does rain, seeing where you're going. The water, you can see the rip-offs. He's got 3 or 4 on there, the plastic shields they pull off. What happens, the water gets driven up in between them and you can't see anything at all then, and it'll be like looking through somebody else's glasses. You just can't see anything at all. And I'm very surprised to see so many, there's Alesi again, so many drivers with not only, there's 3 types of visor, clear, medium and dark, and both of those guys have got the darkest visor on, and the sun's not even shining.
One blessing about this track is that when they start, they haven't got a corner right on top of them, which is going to slow them down and cause collisions, I hope, unlike Montreal, unlike Monaco, for instance.
I hear what you're saying, Murray, but there is that left kink grand curb, and it's easily flat out, as we've seen when they're on a normal lap. But it does tend to focus them and funnel them all into the same point. And we have seen a few dramas there before they have to fall into line astern for turn 2, the Estoril corner. And there's another rerun of the grid positions for the start of this French Grand Prix.
Well, one thing is absolutely for sure. Watch at the back of the grid Eddie Irvine. Watch just ahead of him, 14th on the left-hand side of the grid, Mika Häkkinen. Let your eyes go forward a bit and it'll be 6th, Michael Schumacher. Ahead of him, literally directly in front of him, David Coulthard. 2 men that must be very fancied for this race. But as we've said before, we'll say again, and we'll soon see whether we're right. Rubens Barrichello could be the man. Let us not forget that Rubens Barrichello is no tyro. He's not new to this motor racing game. This is going to be his 103rd Grand Prix, and he actually led the Brazilian Grand Prix this year in the Stewart Ford for 27 laps. So if Barrichello can get away well, and if Alesi gets away well and Panis does the same thing, we could, as I said earlier on, see an opportunity for Barrichello to break away.
I'd put good money on it that the 3 drivers who are way back down the grid, Irvine and Hill and Häkkinen, that their cars were too low yesterday. The ride height of the car, statically and dynamically, too low. And as soon as you get too much standing water, they become surfboards effectively. We've already said the tyres can't clear the water, but also the plank, as they call it, underneath the car tends to surf along on the top, and some drivers had the confidence to nail the car down the straight, and others just couldn't keep it going in a straight line at all. And it could be a matter of a couple 3 millimetres, just over 1/4 of an inch of ride height underneath the car.
Well, that was Jean Alesi getting good luck wishes from his team around him, the Sauber team, the man from Avignon and Nyon, and there he is with a completely clear track in front of him. Away he goes for the formation lap with Rubens Barrichello. There's the white Stewart leading away.
Jean Alesi getting a bit of a stormer there and realising he had to get out of it, because if you effectively pass, which he would have done, pole sitter Rubens Barrichello, he'd have been in trouble there.
Like Schumacher at the British Grand Prix.
Absolutely.
So you can see they're out of the Estoril bend now, coming down. They'll be doing about 180, 190 miles an hour as they approach Adelaide, the second gear, turn 3. That is it. You've seen the lap with Martin from a driver's point of view. So next up is the Nürburgring chicane, sweeping right and left and then into the 180.
Should point out that in the warm-up, Coulthard was fastest just ahead of Irvine and Michael Schumacher in the two Ferraris. But again, it was in the wet, albeit some 6 seconds a lap faster than the pole position, purely because there was a bit less standing water. So Coulthard seems pretty confident in his car, wet or dry, and he'll be keen to get off the start line. Otherwise, you're going to have Michael Schumacher bearing down on him, and he needs some points today. Coulthard must score some points, must not let Hakkinen and co get too far ahead of him. And really, he's also carrying the baton for the McLaren team, because Mika Hakkinen's got a lot of overtaking to do.
There's an unusual sight then. Barrichello in the unique sight. Barrichello in the Stuart Ford leads on the formation lap from a darting and dodging and diving and twisting and turning Jean Alesi. Behind Alesi, Olivier Panis in the blue Prost, and Michael Schumacher starting from 6th on the grid. So they're out of the Chateau d'Eau, the right-hander which drops down. Hello, one of the Williams in trouble?
No, I think they're all having just back up. So somebody slowed down a lot to warm his tyres up with spinning them away from that last little chicane. And I think it backed the whole crew up behind him, and it's so easy to stall the car in that situation, and sometimes you're not even looking ahead of you, you're looking inside the car, generally playing around, and suddenly you realise the car in front has stopped, a bit like at a roundabout.
Fingers crossed then for the weather. We're with Alesi. Look to the right, and it's Rubens Barrichello. As ever, look for those 5 red lights coming on one at a time, going off together to lead to a pre-programmed pause, and then the race starts. The green flag waving in the background shows that everybody's in position, and Magny-Cours in France. Yes! Good start by Barrichello. Good start by Barrichello. David Coulthard goes up into 3rd place, so already he has made a position. It's Barrichello leading Alesi, leading David Coulthard, and Olivier Panis has dropped back to 4th position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the yellow Jordan is 5th. Barrichello leads.
I think Herbert had a very poor start. Johnny Herbert falling back through the field. What did you say? Barrichello making the perfect getaway under pressure. And that's Frentzen coming up into 4th place. So Panis really losing out on that first lap, with Schumacher already round the outside of him.
Schumacher is up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th position from 6th on the grid. And Eddie Irvine carving his way through the field. He's up behind Damon. There is Damon Hill. He's going well too. And Frentzen.
Frentzen with Michael Schumacher trying to get at the inside of him into 180. And Hakkinen also already up to, I believe, 10th place.
Mika Hakkinen flying through the field, coming up towards Imola, the right and left, and that leads into the Chateau d'Eau. The race leader, Rubens Barrichello, 1 lap almost completed, 71 to go, and he's got a gap between himself and, as I thought, Jean Alesi, I think, is starting to hold things up already. Across the line goes Barrichello. David Coulthard is challenging Jean Alesi, and the gap between Barrichello and Alesi is 1.1 seconds, almost 1.2. Riding with Alesi now, round the right-hander at Estoril. Building up to 190 miles an hour as you see Rubens Barrichello braking hard for Adelaide, the right-hander. And Coulthard is going through. David Coulthard takes Jean Alesi.
Yeah, Alesi may come back on the inside, but Coulthard closed the door. That's an important move for Coulthard early in the race, because his car is clearly faster than the Sauber of Alesi. And Coulthard, fastest man already in the first part of this second lap. But just a quick run through. Hill is still down in 17th place, but Hakkinen already up to 9th place.
Mika Hakkinen sailing through the field from 14th on the grid to 9th in in the race. Michael Schumacher from 6th to 5th, and Eddie Irvine still down in 18th position behind Damon Hill. In fact, he's lost a place. Damon Hill's got past him, so Barrichello leads. Coulthard closing up on him. Alesi is 3rd, Frentzen is 4th, Schumacher is 5th. Then the two Prosts of Olivier Panis and Jarno Trulli, and you have seen Mika Häkkinen go through your pictures as the race leader. Rubens Barrichello completes his 2nd lap. Now the gap has come down between him and the 2nd place man, and it's now David Coulthard to 0.6 of a second.
Yes, despite overtaking Alesi on that lap, albeit relatively straightforwardly at Adelaide hairpin, Coulthard was a full 1 second faster than Barrichello, the current leader. So Coulthard's car working very, very well. The track is green. It's been washed very heavily with rain, and really the cars will be a new experience for everybody until they can get some rubber back down on the track.
This is David Coulthard's golden opportunity, starting well ahead of his 3 main rivals for the championship, the 2 Ferraris of Schumacher and Irvine, and of course his teammate Mika Häkkinen. And Mika Häkkinen is now 8th. He's got ahead of Fisichella. He started in 14th position. He came through at the end of the lap in 9th position. Now he is 8th. It's Jarno Trulli next for Mika Häkkinen to challenge, and then he's going to get up amongst the top men on this very, very difficult part to pass circuit. Lap 3 out of 72. Barrichello, Coulthard, they're together. Alesi is dropping back. 2.2 seconds now, the gap. And that's making things difficult for Schumacher. He wants to get ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's in 4th place. So here they come. 1-2, Barrichello and Coulthard. And you can see that Frentzen is bottled up behind Alesi, who's got clear air between himself and the yellow Jordan.
Well, Coulthard, I think, may have a small straight line speed advantage on Barrichello, but he's never going to get close enough behind him in that long, long right-hander of Estoril. I saw a comment from Nicky Lauda that you should have long, fast corners onto the straights for overtaking. I completely disagree with him. You need a slow corner on, otherwise you lose too much time in the dirty air of the car in front, and that's the problem Coulthard has now got. Barrichello's car is just about good enough to make it very hard work for him to pass.
And now Häkkinen is 7th. He's got past Trulli. He'll get past Olivier Panis. I'm quite sure about that. Panis, the Frenchman in the Prost, started 3rd. He's down to 6th now. Michael Schumacher has passed him. So has Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Alesi is still 3rd, and here are the leaders, and we are on lap 4 out of 72. Rubens Barrichello resisting the pressure from David Coulthard. I say again, if you've got the racing line at this Magny-Cours circuit, it's mighty difficult to pass, and there's not all that much of a power differential between the Ford V10 and the Mercedes V10, if any differential at all. They're both revving at about 16,000 RPM, and Alesi still holds that 3rd position. That way with him now, you can see Coulthard and Barrichello disappearing into the distance, and look at that rain cloud. Look at that rain cloud on the left. If that moves much further right and deposits its contents on Magny-Cours, as sure as eggs are eggs, we'll have the safety car out.
Bad news for the Brits. We've got Hill 16th, Irvine 17th. Johnny Herbert has obviously got a problem. He's actually in last place now, so we're expecting maybe Herbert coming in the pits. Now that's Häkkinen making a move on
Mika Häkkinen past Olivier Panis up to top 6th position, and into the pits comes the unfortunate Johnny Herbert. That is no routine stop on lap 5 out of 72 as we watch Mika Häkkinen now, and in his sights he has now got Michael Schumacher. Now we're really up amongst the top men, the top 6 at the present moment on lap 5, with Frentzen now putting up a really fast lap as he closes on Jean Alesi and challenges. The top 10 are Barrichello, Coulthard, Alesi and Frentzen. Schumacher is 5th. Panis has dropped down to 7th behind Häkkinen. Trulli is 8th. Fisichella and Wurz are 9th and 10th. And there is Michael Schumacher with Häkkinen behind him. Well, I said there was going to be action in this race, and there is plenty of it already. Here is the Finn, who incidentally had a car problem in the warm-up. He had to stop, run in and get into the spare car. No such problem in this race. There is Michael Schumacher in the Scarlet Ferrari in 5th position, but he's not making any impression on Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And Coulthard challenging for the lead.
It's a bit late,
yes.
David, but he's made a tremendous move. But Barrichello was very kind to him there, I have to say. But Barrichello getting a good run out. Coulthard should have the power to drag him down to the Nürburgring chicane. And well, David, that was a great move, but Rubens was kind to you, but you had to make it sooner rather than later. And this, of course, is a rerun of these two having a big scrap in the British Formula 3 Championship many years ago.
And now David Coulthard is really in a terrific position to make this race his own. I know it's early days to say that. We're not 1/10 of the way through the race yet, but having fought his way through from 4th on the grid to 1st, here's a replay as they come down to the hairpin at Adelaide. I was expecting Rubens Barrichello to dive through on the inside, but David Coulthard resisted him and has retained the lead.
Yes, I think Rubens did very well there. I mean, bold move from David, and he made it stick very well, but Rubens saw him coming and took a decision. Okay, I'm not going to have an accident. That whole incident ended up in Barrichello's hands, and I think he took the right decision.
Well, now the man to watch is Jean Alesi in 3rd position as David Coulthard there pulls away from Barrichello. Nobody can get past Jean Alesi. Frentzen is still trying. Look for the yellow Jordan in 4th position, and Schumacher is still 5th behind Frentzen.
We'll talk about let him off the leash. Coulthard just went a full 1.5 seconds faster than any other man on the track on the last lap. So now he's got some clear air. He's getting out of there.
Now, David started 4th, and his time difference on his lap as you watch Schumacher and Häkkinen battling for 5th position in the Ferrari and the McLaren. David Coulthard was 2 seconds slower than Barrichello, but Barrichello went out when the weather was good, or as good as it was going to be in qualifying. David Coulthard went out when it was at its very worst, and it was an absolutely magnificent lap. And as you heard from Martin earlier on, he was fastest in the warm-up this morning. The McLaren is absolutely au point for this race. And here is Frentzen, Schumacher, Häkkinen, and they are 4th, 5th and 6th. And Mika Häkkinen, I remind you, has come up from 14th position. You're watching him now in 6th place.
Well, the McLaren is clearly working very well on this racetrack in the condition it's in. Häkkinen's doing half the work at the wheel that Michael Schumacher is, and Schumacher will not be pleased to see that silver car homing in his mirrors. So Mika Häkkinen's car working well. Now he's just in that bad area, unfortunately, where he starts to get in the turbulent era, Michael Schumacher, and things get tough. But I think if he sends one, he's got a good run too. He's got tremendous speed down the back straight. But Michael, too late on the brakes for Mika. But surely he'll be past his championship rival in the next 10, 12 laps.
And if he is, there's going to be a real put down for Michael Schumacher. Now we can talk about strategy as you watch the Ferrari and the McLaren fighting for that 5th position, because I'm expecting them to start coming in from round about lap 22. We're on lap 8 now. We've got some time to go yet, but there may be all sorts of strange strategies in this race for very special reasons by the individual teams as Häkkinen gets closer and closer to Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. They might, for instance, choose to start on a low fuel load and come in early. They might decide to do just the opposite. Time will tell. We're on lap 8. David Coulthard has just done the first lap in under 1 minute 20, and he's gone round in 1 minute 19.227 as Alesi, Frentzen, Schumacher, Häkkinen coming towards us, the 2 Prosts of Panis and Trulli. And there's a 105,000 people crowd here, and they are spellbound.
Well, you saw Häkkinen lost out a little bit in the middle of Esteril corner. He's a little bit nearer than he was before. Will he come into the picture? Look at the tremendous slipstream he got there. Michael going to the inside to protect the line, and he's going to brake later. I think Mika could have stayed a bit longer on the throttle there, to be honest. But Michael defending his line early, realising Häkkinen had got to run at him, and he keeps the place.
Well, these are the 2 top drivers of the day. Yes, they're in 5th and 6th positions, but what a battle they are having. And I'd remind you that Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the brilliant German who crashed so heavily in Canada 2 weeks ago, is staying ahead of them. Here's a replay. Schumacher goes up, it stays on the inside.
Schumi was quite clever there. He parked it on the apex to make sure Mika couldn't duck back underneath him, and really played a bit of a masterstroke there. Hakkinen should have been through.
So I think James Allen has got some news for us. James?
That's right, Murray. Yes, you were just speculating about the strategies there, and basically you need to give yourself, as Martin was saying before, a wide open pit stop window. Normally this is a 2-stop race, and you'd start with about 55 kilos of fuel and go to around about 20 to 22 if it was dry. But today they're expecting rain after about half an hour is the latest forecast I heard. We're about 20 minutes into this race. So you start with a little more fuel, around 60 to 65 kilos, and be flexible. Also adding a little bit more downforce at the beginning of the race. We saw Schumacher and the front runners doing
James, we've got Hakkinen with a great chance now. Now he has got the inside line. Michael will not hold that off. Will he duck back underneath? Hakkinen running a bit wide. I still think Hakkinen should out-drag him to Imola, but it's going to be touch and go. He hasn't got the advantage Coulthard had against Barrichello. Michael will have to yield, and he does. Look at the crowd. They're all getting their coats on out here, Murray, in the grandstand.
Yeah,
everybody suddenly stood up, getting their coats on.
They're going to be coming in before very much longer, I'm sure, and that will be to put on weight when the tires are David Coulthard in the lead. Rubens Barrichello takes the lead, and David Coulthard looks as though he's out of the race. He's stalled his engine, and David Coulthard retires from the lead of the French Grand Prix on lap 10. What awful luck for the Scotsman. Now it's Barrichello. Here's a replay. Let's see what happens.
It's broken down. It's not a place you'd go off. Obviously his car's broken down, and he just decided to get off the racetrack as he saw second place man Barrichello coming along. What has Coulthard got to do?
Well, poor David Coulthard. That's the 4th time in 7 races that he's retired for one reason or another. Luck is not with him this season, but Barrichello's benefited from that, and Barrichello has got nearly 4 seconds between himself and John Alesi, who now regains his 2nd position, which is where he started on the grid. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is 3rd, Mika Hakkinen is 4th, and catching the German. Michael Schumacher in that 5th position. All is not lost for the German, because the rain that we're expecting could change things. They might be on different strategies. But meantime, Rubens Barrichello will be feeling very, very heartened and happy about this. Look at the battle developing behind them. There, you see the yellow Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Ahead of him is Alesi. Now, this is Frentzen's opportunity. If he can only fight his way past Alesi, who is the most experienced Grand Prix driver of them all in this race. We're with him now, coming out of the Chateau d'Eau. Now, there we go, Alesi into the chicane, down to the last corner, the Lycée, turn 14 in this race. There's Frentzen, behind Frentzen is Hakkinen, behind Hakkinen is Schumacher. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Panis is in 6th position, but he's 5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. A titanic scrap between the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th men, while Rubens Barrichello races round in the lead of the French Grand Prix on lap 12 out of 72. And watch Mika Hakkinen. He's come up from 14th. He's now 4th. 10 places, and he's trying to do to Frentzen what he did to Michael Schumacher. Very, very late on the brakes in the McLaren.
Well, the disappointment of the race has got to be the pace of the Ferrari, really. And Michael Schumacher falling away from that battle quite quickly there. Still in 5th place as Alesi locks the inside the left front wheel going into 180. Not unusual going into there, it has to be said. And Hakkinen very much stalking Frentzen for that 3rd place. Didn't take Hakkinen long to get through the pack, did it?
It did not, and Eddie Irvine, on the other hand, is taking a long time to get through the pack, as you see Coulthard to McLaren being removed. Eddie Irvine started in 17th place, 12 laps later, he's fought his way up to 12th position. Damon Hill started 18th, and he's only 15th now. Yes, there's a long way to go, and the retirements are David Coulthard is out of the race. Poor Johnny Herbert has retired yet again. He surely must be the most retired driver in Grand Prix racing, because year after year, irrespective of what car he's been in, poor Johnny's had to retire. He's out of this race, as is Deniz, as is Coulthard. 19 out of the 22 starters still running. Marc Genet is last, and his teammate Luca Badard is in 18th position ahead of him. Down to Adelaide, the hairpin. Alesi 3rd, Frentzen 4th, Hakkinen is in 5th place. And Rubens Barrichello now has an ever-increasing lead. We're with Alesi now of 4 seconds.
I suspect this is just the lock-up, the replay of when we saw Alesi locking the left front. You could see him moving the steering wheel around. He just eased the brake pedal back a little bit, trying to reattach the wheel to the tarmac, and he did that rather nicely.
Well, now you can see 4 of the very best drivers in Grand Prix racing in very, very evenly matched motor cars, demonstrating that Magny-Cours, like most Grand Prix circuits these days, is very difficult to get past it. Why, people say, is it difficult? All sorts of reasons. The drivers have equal ability, the cars are very evenly matched, the aerodynamics make the air behind them very turbulent, and if you get close to the car in front, you lose downforce on your front tyres, which are the ones that are steering you, of course. And so, all in all, you've just got to pressure the driver in front and hope that he makes a mistake. Eddie Jordan there.
This is the problem corner, Estoril, and Hakkinen having dropped back a little bit now, and obviously nowhere near any kind of position to have a go at Frentzen under brake, and he'll close up on him, I think, but I don't think he's going to be able to do anything until he gets significantly closer out of turn 2, Estoril corner. Well, nonetheless, Hakkinen will be more than satisfied to already have Michael Schumacher behind him.
Yeah, and Michael Schumacher is dropping back. You see, we're watching him now. He's over a second behind that battle for second position between Alesi, Frentzen and Hakkinen that you're looking at.
That wasn't an overtaking manoeuvre you were watching there with Hakkinen and Frentzen. That was just there's very much two distinct lines to take into that corner. Go in wide and come out tight, or just go in very early. Very early is definitely the fastest way, but Frentzen choosing to go in a little bit wider, and it looked like Hakkinen was going to come sliding up the inside, but it's not the corner to do it.
Well, now, sadly, I have to say that it really does look now as though David Coulthard's chances of the World Championship have been all but destroyed. He started this race in an equal 6th position, some 22 points behind his teammate Mika Hakkinen that you are looking at. If he'd got those 10 World Championship points that he would have got, if he'd managed to finish this race where he was when he retired, it would have considerably strengthened his case.
Now here we go, Murray. Now it's a much different situation for Hakkinen. He managed to stay close enough. He should be able to come up the inside. Will Frentzen close the door? Not impressed.
Clean as a whistle. Clean. Oh, yes, he goes. Frentzen dives up alongside him, and he's going to. But Hakkinen has got the inside line for the left-hand bend. Now there's a right-hander that follows, and Hakkinen chops across quite safely the front of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, now up to 3rd position. You are watching an absolutely superb drive by the reigning world champion Mika Hakkinen. Here's a replay.
Yes, Frentzen should have come to the right. It was clear that for all to see that Hakkinen was going to have a go at him and gone more straight. He already knows Hakkinen's faster in the straight, and Frentzen just left the door absolutely wide open. And now Hakkinen's bearing down on Alesi, who I think is doing rather well.
Yeah, I think Alesi is going to yield where the others did not do so quickly. There'll be more of a performance differential between the Ferrari-engined Sauber of Jean Alesi and the Mercedes-engined of Mika Hakkinen. So they're round the left-hander, the Grand Courbe, into Estoril as we look down from the helicopter. The blue car is Jean Alesi, 2nd place. The silver and black one behind him is Mika Hakkinen. They're coming up towards Adelaide, which is where Mika Hakkinen does these demon late braking moves and dives past people. He's going to have another go, but he's too far away from Jean Alesi, who closes right up on the apex, runs wide and retains his 2nd place, but I don't think he's going to do it for very much longer. Meantime, Rubens Barrichello now leads by 4.6 seconds, and covering the first 5, there's a mere 7.2 seconds as you watch Ralf Schumacher trying to pass Fisichella in the Benetton. Fisichella is in 8th position, Ralf Schumacher therefore is in 9th position. Benetton and Williams, they're both powered by the Supertech engine.
Yes, they're certainly evenly matched in terms of power with the same engine. And, well, the Williams looked like they were very strong earlier on in the proceedings of this Grand Prix through free practice and that, but weren't dealt a very good hand in that wet qualifying session, and Ralf really having to work very hard back there in 9th place. Zanardi back in 13th in
now
the second Williams.
Here are the top 10 on lap 17 as you watch Schumacher pushing Fisichella for 8th position. Barrichello leading by 4.6 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi, who is in second place with Mika Häkkinen tucked up under his rear wing ready to challenge. 4th is Frentzen, 5th is Michael Schumacher, 6th is Olivier Panis, 7th is Jarno Trulli, 8th is Fisichella that you have been watching, and now in 9th position is Ralf Schumacher, followed by Eddie Irvine, who's come up from 17th and is now carving his way through the field. Now this is Alesi versus Häkkinen. And Schumacher gets through ahead of Fisichella, who has to yield, and Ralf Schumacher is now up into 8th position in the Williams. Nice bit of driving, and you can see Eddie Irvine in the scarlet Ferrari thundering up behind them, and he's gaining hand over fist on them, lapping 0.7 of a second faster than both of them. And down to the Adelaide hairpin, hard on the brakes, down into second gear, onto the apex. Fisichella has to run wide. Schumacher lets his Williams run wide, gets right in front, and Häkkinen now, completing the lap, is still right up with Alesi, who still resists him. Now, Alesi hasn't had the best of seasons in 1999. He's failed to finish 5 times out of the 6 races we've already had. He got 1 World Championship point at the San Marino Grand Prix. We're with him now, and hopefully the producer will stay with Alesi, and we'll be able to see whether Mika Häkkinen tries a late braking move yet again. No, Alesi's got him taped.
Alesi quite slow on the apex of Adelaide every time, but he's certainly braking late. Always was a good late braker, Jean Alesi, and interestingly, actually 0.05 of a second faster on the previous lap than Mika Häkkinen. So Alesi driving a stormer, quicker than Barrichello, who's currently leading.
And a great tribute not only to him and the car, but to that Ferrari engine, because it's a last year's Ferrari engine, labelled as a Petronas engine, which is Alesi's and the Sauber team's Malaysian sponsor.
Getting a bit dark out there, Murray. Look, people getting their plastic mats out in the grandstands. They've got a better feel for the weather than we have inside this commentary box, but certainly getting very dark overhead.
Alesi, Häkkinen, just behind them is the... And Häkkinen won't get through there. That's where Villeneuve tried to get past Eddie Irvine last year and failed so to do. And talking of Irvine, you can see that he's now getting very close indeed. Eddie Irvine in 10th position to Fisichella's Benetton.
That was actually Michael still behind, I think, the Jordan of Frentzen, that particular shot we saw coming onto the pit straight. And now Häkkinen ever closer. Look at the slipstream he picks up. Tremendous speed he picks up then. And again, Alesi braking as late as he did. And they've both gone wide. And will that let... No, Frentzen's not able to take advantage of that. So Häkkinen and Alesi braking absolutely on, and in fact slightly beyond the limit. And the pair of them, what a classic move that was. Good to see, both on the ragged edge. They both tippy-toe around the outside, live for another day. And Häkkinen now up to 2nd place.
Now, this is going to be the battle. The gap between Häkkinen and Barrichello, who leads the race, is 4.5 seconds. And I said earlier on, what a storm of a race Mika Häkkinen is driving. This is the man who won the Brazilian Grand Prix, who won in Spain, who won in Canada 2 weeks ago to take the lead in the World Championship. Here's the replay. See Alesi lock up his tyres. The glowing disc brakes of Mika Häkkinen's car appear on the right. Alesi has to run wide. Häkkinen does the same thing, chops off Alesi in the process, and now Heinz-Harald Frentzen is right up with Alesi, who has lost momentum as a result of Häkkinen's passing move.
Imagine that, you're doing 180 miles an hour, you're braking at something like 4G, 110 metres before the corner, and you're inches apart from another car doing exactly the same thing. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after these messages.
Lap 22, and it's starting to rain at Magny-Cours in France. The crowd are putting up their umbrellas, and Mika Häkkinen that you're looking at has closed the gap to Rubens Barrichello from 4.2 to 1.7 seconds.
Look at the rain. They'll be in this lap for sure for wet tyres, and in fact those drivers further down the pack, like Eddie Irvine, are going to be in the pits a lap before the others, and I think that's going to give Irvine quite a big advantage. He's a long way back anyway from the leading pack, but that's a great timing for Eddie Irvine.
But it looks as though they're not ready for him, Martin. They're in a bit of a flap in the Ferrari team. Yeah. Irvine just hit the rain as he came towards the end of the lap.
Fisichella spinning around, and that's how slippery it is. But I still think Irvine's better off waiting for tyres than, in fact, no, not waiting that long. They're waiting too long.
32 seconds.
They just weren't ready.
This is real panic.
That's completely blown that advantage then. Now they've got a tip-tap. While you were away, absolutely nothing significant happened other than it started to rain. James is in the pits. What's happening?
Total confusion. Ferrari not ready for Eddie Irvine. It was a unilateral decision by the Irishman to come in and put wets on, and the front left when it went on was actually a groove tyre. They had to take it off when they realised and put a wet tyre on. McLaren are ready for Mika Häkkinen, and meanwhile Ferrari are re-racking wet tyres this time, of course, boys, ready for Michael Schumacher. Irvine gained nothing from that. Your race leader Rubens Barrichello comes in. They're all coming in now, Murray.
Yeah, James, look how much Alesi has caught Häkkinen on that in-lap. So Häkkinen very, very cautious, and Alesi right up behind him. So the top 4 or 5 guys all in the pits together, and Alesi may just get out before Häkkinen if they can get a good stop in that Sauber team. Steer odds, Murray.
Absolutely. Lap 23, and it's all going to depend on pit stops now. There is Heinz Harald Frentzen. He's got the wet weather Bridgestones on. Michael Schumacher there in the pits, and the Ferrari mechanics don't look much happier with Schumacher than they did with. And Alesi gets out. Now, where is he?
There's Häkkinen. Look, so Häkkinen's out, at least ahead of Alesi.
Off goes Hill. That is Damon Hill off the track, and he's got a puncture. Left to rear puncture.
I would think he's whacked the wall somewhere. I think you'll find he probably spun off and had a little chat with the wall. We might get a replay on that. That's Alesi back on track, having put the wet tyres on. Now you see the spray coming off as the tyres lift bucket loads of water up into the sky, and a car creeping along. That's Damon Hill creeping along on the right-hand side. I think he will have gone off in Estoril corner. Louise, what's happening?
I think what's happened there, as all the cars started coming in at the same time, absolute mayhem. Damon was coming down to exit the pit lane when one of the arrows came out of his pit garage at the same time. The two touched, and I think that's probably what's caused Damon's problem.
Well, we've all been speculating about whether Damon will in fact retire before the end of the season. He was a very unhappy man when he failed to qualify and actually started the race 18th. After he had had 2 cracked exhaust systems of 2 different cars in qualifying, and this will not improve his humour one little bit.
Now look at what Lacey's looking to. Remember I said at the beginning of the programme, why are they all running dark visors? The TV camera can hardly see, and that's got a clear screen on it. So now those drivers that chose the very dark screens are going to be struggling as visibility is heavily impaired. Now remember, in the wet practice yesterday, Häkkinen really did struggle with his car, and in the wet warm-up this morning, Murray.
Yeah, whereas Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine in particular, who you are watching now, were flying. And on lap 23, Rubens Barrichello has the lead from Mika Häkkinen, with John Alesi in 3rd position. So things have turned good again for Rubens Barrichello in the white Stewart. We're looking at him now with Häkkinen behind him in these appalling conditions. This is exactly what it's like now. And if it's bad for Barrichello, just imagine what it's like for Häkkinen with those great roosters of spray being thrown up alongside him. And Alesi is in 3rd position. You're looking at the top 3 now, with Alesi closing on Häkkinen, Häkkinen closing on Barrichello. 4th is Frentzen, and in 5th position Michael Schumacher ahead of Olivier Panis. What a race.
That's a replay of Damon Hill's problem. Louise said there was a touch in the pit lane. That's where he got that puncture from. But Barrichello being extremely cautious in the lead of this Grand Prix. There's nowhere near as much standing water yet as there was in qualifying yesterday, so I don't see any signs of the aquaplaning that caused them so much problems, and for sure they will have lifted Häkkinen's car, and he certainly seems actually to be the happiest one in the front 3 at the moment. But there's a wheel gun in the pit lane. Where's that from?
James, what's the news?
Well, Murray, Damon Hill comes crawling in. I told you it was going to rain half an hour into the race. 31 minutes in, and sure enough it started raining. Absolutely fascinating. Now, I was looking at the figures before, and one of the reasons possibly why Michael Schumacher couldn't keep pace with Mika Häkkinen was because he put a bit of extra wing on the grid. His straight line speed was 289 kilometres an hour compared to Häkkinen's 303 in the dry. He's got a wet setup, Martin, I think.
Well, this could help him. This could help him. Michael Schumacher's in 5th position as you watch the first two. Barrichello, and if it was hard for Häkkinen to pass Barrichello before, when he did so at the Adelaide hairpin, just look at what it's like now. You're looking at it from Alesi.
He's spun. Alesi's spun.
Off goes Sean Alesi. That's exactly where he went off in an earlier race years ago in the Ferrari.
He's kept the engine going, but will he get out of the gravel? No, he tried to pull away too quickly. He's thumping the steering wheel. And Alesi should have just, so easily let that clutch out. To be honest, I think he was beached anyway. So Alesi having a harmless spin in terms of damage, but look how angry he is, and I do feel for him because there's not a lot you can do. It's the Chateau d'Eau, ironically the water tower corner, and Alesi certainly found plenty of water there, didn't he?
Shaking his head with a mixture of rage and frustration as Heinz Harald Frentzen moves up into 3rd place, Schumacher into 5th. Here's a replay, and the Sauber just spins as though it was on
safety car. Safety car is out, Murray. The safety car is on the track. They've declared that there's too much standing water, and they will now continue this race. They'll pick up Rubens Barrichello. There's waved yellows all the way around the track, so nobody can overtake. So Rubens may as well just back off now. His team should already have told him. They will have seen the safety car leaving the pit lane, so he may as well just calm it and make sure he doesn't have a silly aquaplane off the road.
Well, this isn't going to make it any easier for Barrichello or for Mika Häkkinen behind him. That's the BAR team coming out, I should imagine, to get Jacques Villeneuve in from 10th position, as Oliver Gavin, our British Formula 3000 driver for the European team, comes out in the Mercedes-Benz safety car yet again. He's been out several times in races this year, and it's time, while they're out behind the safety car, we'll go to a break.
We just saw a picture there of Rubens Barrichello waving. What he was waving at, Murray, is there's a big diamond screen there, and you can see yourself, and he knows the TV cameras are pointing at him. So he was waving to his mum, I guess.
He's a cool customer. That's a pretty far-fetched theory, Martin.
No, I bet you, any money you like, ask him after the race. I bet you he was waving because he saw the diamond screen.
Right, I believe you. Thousands wouldn't. But the race order on lap 27 out of 72, behind the safety car in quite dreadful weather. I've seen as bad, and I suppose probably I've seen worse. Donington 1993, when I was talking about Rubens Barrichello earlier on, was just as bad as this for the whole race. But Barrichello leads. Mika Häkkinen there, who started down in 14th position, has brilliantly fought his way up into the lead, and now back where he is now. And that's a Williams off and a Benetton off. So I reckon now, I'm just looking, I wonder if it's Fisichella and Zanardi, but I'm guessing
it's Villeneuve and Wirtz have stopped in there. That's Wirtz's Benetton. They've obviously aquaplaned off the road. They're on wets, look, so they've aquaplaned off the road under safety car conditions because they've already made their pit stop. And we also know that Villeneuve stopped somewhere in the same area on the racetrack. Haven't picked him up with the cameras yet. We did see a second car in there, and so it's the BAR of Villeneuve. Now you can see it in the background.
Genet has gone off as well in the Minardi. So we're going to be down to 13 or 14 cars. There is Jacques Villeneuve's BAR. Louise, have you got news?
Yeah, we've just seen a couple of cars go off. I'm down in the Stewart garage at the moment. Rubens Barrichello, saw him waving his hands. He's actually been on the radio calling to the team, telling them the car is virtually undrivable. It's just aquaplaning everywhere. He's asked for the race to be stopped, and Paul Stewart, I believe, has just gone off to see the race director to ask the very same thing.
I hate smugly to say I told you so, Martin Brundle, but
you didn't believe me.
I remember because it was identical to Alain Prost in 1984 at Monaco when he went across waving his hand to say stop the race when Ayrton Senna was bearing down on him in the Tollman.
But if I was the race director, I'd be saying, okay, well, there's Genet's car. So but remember, those cars weren't behind the safety car, okay? They were playing catch-up, we saw Villeneuve making that extra stop for fuel. And at safety car speeds, I don't think there's any need to put the red flag out. And they can do. We had that here, I remember, in a French Grand Prix 3 or 4 years ago, where they actually had to stop the race for a period of time. We didn't have the safety car in those days. I don't believe there's any chance of aquaplaning off at these speeds, and they should just carry on as they are.
Good news, that's Genet's car. Good news, it's getting much brighter now, and I'm sure you're right, actually, Martin, in all seriousness. The safety car will motor around until the rain eases. We'll know when he's coming in.
Have you ever seen I've seen the safety car crash. That's when you know it's really getting bad.
Then you have got a major problem. But I noticed that Heinz-Harald Frentzen just a few seconds ago was positioning himself very aggressively in third place behind Mika Häkkinen's McLaren. He's dropped back a bit now, but Frenzen's dander is clearly up. He means to get past Häkkinen on the restart of the race when the safety car pulls off. And you can see Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari has got Olivier Panis right behind him. We're watching Marc Genet's car being removed from the track. So that means that Johnny Herbert has retired, Deniz has retired, Coulthard has retired. We've seen Jean Alesi spin out. Now we've seen Genet and Wurz and Villeneuve, and Zanardi, for that matter, seems to be out as well. So it looks as though we're going to be down to 13 cars when the race restarts out of the 22 that originally took the lights.
Yes, apparently Paul Stewart has asked for the safety car to slow down, but I still think those 3 cars that went off were playing catch-up to the snake behind the safety car. If they do happen to throw the red flags, and I really believe they won't, then the race will be in 2 parts. Poor old Jean Alesi, Murray. He was a half a lap away from the safety car coming out, so he'll be even more angry as he's trudging his way back to the pits.
The eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted that Damon Hill has rejoined 2 yellow Jordans up there, so Damon Hill, far from being discouraged, is back in the race, although he will be a lap or 2 laps down actually. But in this race, quite clearly anything can happen, and if you're there at the end, who knows, you could be in the points. Top 6 get points, 10, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th places, and Oliver Gavin in the Mercedes starts another lap, followed by Barry Keller. And of course, this is the way the Canadian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago finished, behind the safety car. We saw history made then. Let's hope we're not going to see it repeated here, because it would be a very early finish, and we would then be into the question of whether points would be awarded. If the race is finished at 75% distance, which would be 54 laps in this race, points are awarded. There are the McLaren mechanics, and here is the safety car. We're on lap 29. The counter keeps running. That is Tora Takagi in the arrows, 13th position in for tyres and fuel. And a new nose.
He's obviously had a trip through the gravel trap at some point. Barrichello's the leader of the race. If he wants to slow the safety car down, he can actually just slow down and leave a bigger gap, and eventually Ollie Gavin will have to respond to that and slow down anyway, but the pace looks sensible to me.
Eddie Jordan walking along the pit lane wrapped in thought, wondering about Frentzen, his man, who has had such a brilliant season since he joined the Jordan team. 2nd in Australia, 3rd in Brazil, 4th in Monaco. He's only won 1 race, and that was for Williams the year before last, the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. But Heinz-Harald Frentzen has reacted magnificently to being appointed by the Jordan team, and the German is actually equal 4th in the World Championship. And talking about the championship, Häkkinen is looking at the present moment with a 4-point advantage over Michael Schumacher of extending it if they stay where they are, because at the present moment in 2nd position Mika Häkkinen is on a potential 6 points, whereas Michael Schumacher is on a potential 3 points. But it really is early days to be talking about the World Championship for drivers, because we're on lap 29. We haven't even yet done half distance. The half distance lap is lap 36, and yet again the safety car fails to peel off and go into the pit lane and therefore there's going to be another lap behind it.
Yes, he's got to do a lap with his lights out, so see if he switches anything off as he goes over the line. I think if he does, it's a touch too early, frankly, but won't be too much longer. I'm pretty certain that they will restart this race under greens. The sky's clear. We're going to take a quick break before they do that.
Lap 31 out of 72, and as you can well see, the safety car is still out. I don't think it's going to be out for very much longer because the rain has stopped. Patrick Head there, the technical boss of Williams, and Rubens Barrichello has got Mika Häkkinen tight up behind him. I'm expecting, I've got no prior knowledge, I'm expecting the safety car to come in very quickly indeed. So there is Häkkinen second as he comes through. Heinz Harald Frentzen in third place, followed by Michael Schumacher, who leads Olivier Panis in fifth position. And Damon Hill has rejoined the race. He's 2 laps down. The blue car there is Jarno Trulli, who is 6th. Both the Prost in the points. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams is 7th. Fisichella is 8th. Look for Eddie Irvine. There he is in 9th position, in a very strong position to make up places, followed by Ricardo Zonta, because Villeneuve now in the BAR is out of the race. That's De La Rosa in the Arrows, Luca Badoa in the Minardi, just 2 cars after him on the order, Takagi and Hill, although Damon Hill is in front of him in this procession.
Yeah, it's a tough afternoon now for Damon Hill. He's already explained to us that really he's struggling to find the motivation and performance that he wants, therefore he's retiring. And he's now a full lap behind the 13th place man, and 2 laps behind the lead. Is in treacherous conditions, and it'll be a big test of his motivation if he pounds round for this last 42 laps. A lot of pressure in the paddock, and this is something I dislike a lot about Formula One. A lot of pressure saying, oh, Damon should go now, he should go immediately, and all that sort of thing. You know, last September everybody was fighting him as the hero when he won in treacherous conditions like this in Spa, and you know, carrying him around and saying how brilliant he was and all that sort of thing. And all of a sudden there's this big movement, oh, Damon, you should go straight away. Don't subscribe to it at all. And the man's still a world-class driver, and I'm looking forward to see it. I hope he just stays on it this afternoon to prove them wrong.
I couldn't agree more strongly with every word you've said, Martin. Gavin takes another lap in the safety car. I don't know what they're waiting for now, to be quite honest, unless it's for standing water and they know there's drainage to ease away a bit.
The flashing lights are still on the safety car. We think there's some animation going on the pit counter. I thought I saw some people in the Williams pit saying a safety car coming in soon, like they had some overheard some radio communication or something. James is in the pits, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm down at Ferrari, and Michael Schumacher, just as he came by last time, sort of did a blinking sort of signal with his hand and pointed at the safety car. I think he's unhappy. I think he wants to get it out of the way. As I said, I think he's running a bit more wing than the McLaren in front of him. He thinks he might have a bit of a chance in this race. But a critical thing to watch out for, guys, is the 1 minute 28 lap time, because as this track dries out, we've got a strong breeze blowing, and as this track dries out, that's the time at which you've got to come back in again and change for the slick tyres. 1 minute 28 seconds.
Thanks for that, James. 1 minute 28. We'll remember that. That was Fisichella that you saw spinning. He was in 8th position. I'm just seeing whether that was a replay and whether Irvine is now behind him or ahead of him. If he's going to place, that's obviously very much to his advantage. One less to worry about, as you see Schumacher, Panis, there's Damon Hill down, Ralf Schumacher, there's Fisichella, and he's still ahead of Eddie Irvine.
Bit of a problem here will be falling tyre pressures. They need probably a bit extra pressure with this standing water to give them less aquaplaning. And when you're cruising around at this kind of speed, no tyre temperature, tyres will be extremely cold, and inevitably the tyre pressure falls with it. So a bit of a double whammy just when you need all the grip you can find.
Much, much brighter. I am optimistic that when the safety car comes in, the race will run the rest of its distance. There's still 40 laps to go. We're on lap 32 now, long, long way to go. The flashing lights, which indicate that I'm staying out, are still going on the roof of the safety car as Häkkinen comes up, followed by Frentzen. Now, watch those lights. Is he coming in?
Just just to remind you, in the early part of the race, the pit lane starts about now, and it looks to me like the safety car's staying on track, but I do believe he's got to switch those lights off long before he comes in the pit lane, Murray. We should see something on the Mercedes get a little bit out of shape coming out of Lice there.
Now, if this was a champ car race in America, this could dramatically alter strategies, because fuel consumption is very, very critical there. I don't know that it's that critical in this race for it to alter strategy, but it might just well do and change the complexion of the race. And that is the Prost of Olivier Panis, who is in 5th position. There's Damon Hill, 2 laps down, I remind you, going on in his last French Grand Prix, followed by Jarno Trulli, who's got to get past him before he can get to grips with his teammate Panis. That is Ralf Schumacher, and we're looking from the helicopter now as they make their way down to the Adelaide hairpin on this fastest part of the course, out of the Golf turn from Estoril. You can see what a very, very sharp corner it is. That's the one where Häkkinen has been so brilliant in this race.
Yeah, it's been a lot of overtaking into that corner, really the main overtaking place of this circuit. There's a couple of opportunist areas further round, but just if you have joined us late, just to remind you that Johnny Herbert dropped out of the race early on with a gearbox problem, and Coulthard was screaming off into the lead and then had some kind of problem with the McLaren, we don't know, pulled over on the side of the racetrack. Häkkinen has made his way beautifully through from 14th to 2nd.
Well, there was a time when you would have been looking at those big wide rear boots. They're much narrower now. The 4 grooves are there for water clearance, and also in dry conditions just to put less rubber on the road to make the cornering slower in the hope of increasing lap times. Now, I watch the safety car again. I still see those lights flashing, but we're at Imola now, and it's when he comes out of the right-hander at Chateau d'Eau, which he's approaching now, that we'll know if those lights go out. Hello, there's the starter. They're looking as though nothing in particular is going to be happening as Hill rounds the corner in the Jordan. Safe down. Is this the signal for the race to restart on lap 33? It is not. Absolutely it is not.
You can hear the engines revving. They're getting a little bit impatient now. The drivers know the track's just about ready to go again. So
temperatures?
Well, they're just trying to spin the rear wheels up as much as they can. The engine temperatures now have no problem at this point. So no problem at all in terms of the cars overheating. They're moving along just fast enough, and the air's so cold anyway, just 15 degrees, that they won't have a problem with the engine or gearbox. Just they won't have enough temperature in the tyres. And Hill's retiring.
Hill retiring from his last French Grand Prix. Is this going to hasten his retirement? It's the 5th time he's retired from 7 races. He's only got 1 4th place and 3 World Championship points to his credit in a very unhappy last season of Formula One. And I'm very, very sorry to see that and to say that.
Well, after what we just said about him, I just so hope he hasn't just pulled in and pulled out of this motor race.
And said that's enough. Down to Adelaide again. I remind you of the order, and make no mistake about it, when this race restarts, it is going to be a fizzer, because they're all tied up together. They all know the conditions, and the gaps have been virtually eradicated as the pit lane is being swept. Barrichello leading, Häkkinen 2nd, Frentzen in the yellow Jordan, Schumacher is 4th, weaving and to keep his tyres up to temperature. Panis is 5th and Trulli is 6th. Only one constructor has got both his cars in the top 6 at the moment, and that is Alain Prost team, French team in France, with a French driver and a French engine, and Ralf Schumacher is 7th ahead of Fisichella. Eddie Irvine is 9th, Zonta is 10th. There's only 10 seconds between the leader and the 11th place man, which is Pedro de la Rosa. Luca Badoa is in 12th position, and the one remaining runner, now that Damon has retired, is Tora Takagi. 22 started, 13 are still running. We're on lap 34 out of 72, so just under half distance. Now, is this it? I don't think so. Safety car lights are still flashing. All right, Martin. What's your guess? Why is it staying out so long?
I think they just want to be extra cautious, really. But I have to say the track looked ready. Does he put the lights out on the safety car?
Yeah,
no, he doesn't at the moment. The lights are still on the safety car. I have to say it looks like the track is ready, but we haven't got the benefit of being out there.
No.
And
I'm not belittling their decision. These cars, these engines produce 800 brake horsepower. The cars only weigh 600 kilograms with the driver and everything aboard. That's an absolutely fantastic power-to-weight ratio, where obviously you can spin the wheels in normal circumstances.
Safety car is in at the end of this lap, so they obviously agree with us, and you can see the drivers have been champing at the bit the last couple of laps. They know it's nearly ready to go.
Okay, folks, fasten your safety belts. This is going to be it. The French Grand Prix, after a good few laps behind the safety car, is going to restart when Gavin pilots the silver Mercedes into the pit lane and Rubens Barrichello sees a clear track ahead of him.
That's clearly not just to make the pit lane look tidy. That's for when their next pit stop happens. They don't want standing water. Easy enough to lock the wheels going into your pit garage of what is made up of 18 of your own mechanics. So mechanics very much thinking of themselves and their team there and clearing the standing water from the pit lane.
Lap 35. Where is Gavin now? He's at the 180. He's still got to come up to Imola. He's still got to come up to the Chateau d'Eau. You can see, looking across at the skyline, that the conditions are visibly better than they were. It's infinitely brighter. The rain has well stopped. A lot of the water, by no means all of it, is on the track. And the lights are out. Now we're at Imola. The right, the left, now up to Chateau d'Eau. The right-hander. And Oliver Gavin gets ready to peel off and into the pit lane. Are you ready then? Because now the French Grand Prix is again.
I can tell you, I would be so nervous. Now, Barrichello takes over the role of the safety car. Barrichello now has control, and he's going to back them all up, and then he'll scamper out of that last corner as quick as he can. There'll be plenty of spray, and there he goes. So Barrichello leads in. Nobody can overtake to the start-finish line, and they're through, but plenty of spray, look, and a lot of pressure on Barrichello. I can tell you, they're all super nervous on the restart of this race. So easy to make a small mistake and be sitting in the gravel trap.
But Barrichello has the advantage. Clear track, no spray. Hakkinen is taking a faithful. So is Fredson there in third position. Michael Schumacher is still fourth. I didn't see him behind the yellow door. There he is. Michael Schumacher still in fourth position ahead of Olivier Panis. And this is the half distance, lap 36 out of 72. As Schumacher challenges Fredson and runs wide, loses momentum. Fredson accelerates away. Michael Schumacher is on a charge. Remember what James Allen said. Michael Schumacher's car is set up for wet conditions with more downforce from the rear wing. This should help the German. Michael Schumacher challenging Fredson. There they are. First, second, third, fourth. And Olivier Panis not so far behind in fifth position ahead of Jarno Trulli. Damon Hill is out of Trulli's way. Unfortunately, Hill in the garage, out of the race. And Rubens Barrichello leads at this half-distance point. That dark visor of his shining in what light there is here at Magny-Cours.
Once again, Barrichello being particularly cautious, but hasn't stood him in too bad a stead this afternoon. He does still continue to lead this race, but Barrichello, quite a wise head on him now, but being super cautious, and if Hakkinen gets a sniff, I think he'll pass him easily under braking.
Schumacher getting visibly worried. He wants to get past Fredson. He can see that Barrichello and Hakkinen are going to pull away from him. Schumacher wants to win this race as much as anybody else does. He's dropped to second place in the World Championship. There is Michael Schumacher, and there is the gap. Barrichello, Hakkinen, and that Ford engine is really punching out the power.
Yes, Hakkinen got well out of shape actually in the middle of Estoril. The problem he's got now is he can't actually see where he's going either. And you can see he fell back from Barrichello and then takes a lot of time out of him under braking. Barrichello super cautious. Hakkinen would have seen that, and Well, if Michael Schumacher could only see where he was going, I think he'd be having a go at Frentzen too.
Well, I think Rubens Barrichello is distinctly going to be in danger at Adelaide at the next corner, because Mika Häkkinen's prowess at that hairpin is awesome to watch, and I use the word advisedly. He's under the wing almost of Barrichello's Stewart car, and there is Frentzen behind him, Michael Schumacher.
Curves like that, you've just seen them leading into this short straight. In the dry, they're absolutely nothing. You don't even give them any thought. In the wet, it's the perfect opportunity to just spin off straight into a concrete wall. You start driving the track a few meters in front of you instead of looking down the road as you do in the dry. In the wet, you bring your focus and you're just waiting for the car to twitch. You're driving the piece of track you're on at that moment at all times.
Now, Häkkinen will be looking to get as close to Rubens Barrichello as he can before he gets to the Adelaide hairpin.
Yes, last time round, Häkkinen tried to get on the power too early and got out of shape and lost that time. Now he's got to be smoother, calmer in the middle of Estoril. Then I think he should stay just about close enough to have a dive up the inside of Barrichello as they go into Adelaide. There's a long way back.
Look at Schumacher.
It's Schumi that's got the best chance, isn't it?
Yeah, Schumacher right up with Heinz-Harald Frentzen now, and Rubens Barrichello, of course, knows as well as does Mika Häkkinen what the Finn is going to try. And he tries right up behind Rubens Barrichello.
Oh, he's going to spin. He caught the white line on the inside.
Through goes Schumacher. That was bad for Mika Häkkinen and Panis. Mika Häkkinen has shot himself well and truly in both feet.
Häkkinen put the car on the inside of the curve, an absolute no-no. He was clearly watching Barrichello or something. Look, puts the car on that white line, spins up the inside rear wheel, and you're always going to go round. That was a very simple, straightforward error there from Mika Häkkinen.
And it's paid off for Rubens Barrichello in terms of the tactics he has been following. Take it easy, he's saying to himself. And now, Frentzen is up into second place, as he was at Montreal 2 weeks ago. Stewart leads with Barrichello at the wheel. Jordan is second with Frentzen at the wheel. Mika Häkkinen spins down. Michael Schumacher is up into third place. And Mika Häkkinen's going to have to look at the way Schumacher is going now.
I think Schumacher just pulling out so he can see where he's going. You always just try and pull out of the other guy's slipstream. Not as much as overtake him, it's just to see where he is.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher is sizing up Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who won't see the Ferrari in that ball of spray behind him. But what guts this requires from all of them. They're driving into a blinding ball of spray. And Michael Schumacher has got the bit well and truly between his teeth. He knows that Häkkinen is out of the running. And now, can he get past Heinz-Harald Frentzen as they come out to Adelaide? Look at the spray.
Schumacher can see nothing. The camera sees through that spray. Schumacher's looking through 50 metres of spray. The camera's looking through 3. But Schumi comes in, just easily, just presses the brake so gently and rolls it up the inside. Once again, Frentzen, much too easy a touch into Adelaide.
Now, Michael Schumacher sees Rubens Barrichello ahead of him. And the gap is about 1 second. Michael Schumacher from 6th on the grid now races in 2nd position, and Mika Häkkinen is down in 7th place behind Ralf Schumacher, Trulli, Panis and Replay.
Yes, Replay there. Michael, very smart, very calm. It would have been very easy for him to go up there and just block a front wheel. He's just rolled it in, and if Frentzen turned in, he knows he could still just about do something about it. I'm sorry, but Frentzen not doing a good job in that corner today. Look, Eddie Jordan shaking his head. I think he's probably agreeing with me.
A sad shake of the Irish head of Eddie Jordan, because he knows now that with Michael Schumacher ahead of Frentzen, and Schumacher getting out of shape, he's right on the ragged edge now, closing up on Rubens Barrichello. The gap was 1.4 seconds. It's certainly less than that now. As Schumacher goes across the line, I tell a lie, it's 1.5 seconds. But Schumacher, 2nd position. Barrichello leads. Frentzen 3rd. Panis is 4th. And both the Prosts have moved up a place, of course. They're 4th and 5th. Ralf Schumacher is 6th. Mika Häkkinen out of the points. There's no McLaren in the points at the moment. Although I have no doubt that Mika Häkkinen will soon get past Ralf Schumacher in the Williams Supertech.
not so sure. I think you could well be right, Murray, but Hacken's not been as strong in the wet as in the dry. But I fear that Barrichello's days are numbered of leading this race. But there's several people who cruised up and had a go at him. Somehow he stayed in front. Damon Hill apparently had engine problems with the Jordan. That's why he came into the pit garage and stopped.
That certainly won't increase his motivation to continue. And Rubens Barrichello, I keep reminding everybody, is no new boy. This is his 103rd Grand Prix, in spite of the fact that he's still only 27 years old. And he's very, very mature, and he'll certainly need to be, because he's got the toughest man in Formula One gaining on him visibly. There he is, Michael Schumacher, Ferrari, and it's go now as they come down out of Chateau d'Eau, down to the last corner, and Michael Schumacher will be going for Barrichello at Adelaide.
Yes, I think Barrichello's going to be easy meat anytime soon. Michael's got a lot more confidence, especially into the braking areas, and Michael somewhat more acrobatic behind the wheel. But as we said before, Barrichello still maintains the lead, even if he's constantly under pressure.
So, Michael Schumacher, I remind you, has won this race 4 times in the last 5 years. There's something about Magny-Cours that suits the German.
Yeah, now Michael got on the white line on the exit of Estoril there and lost a hatful of time. You just cannot touch the white lines. Everybody knows that. Sometimes you can't avoid it if you're understeer wide. And that's where Rubens has got to find some confidence. Wind the brake balance a couple of turns to the rear. I think he's already done some of that. And don't lock the front. It's easier to cope with a slight locking of the rear if you can. And Barrichello there has got to find some way of braking later. I don't think he's any slower anywhere else. He's just massively slow on the brakes.
Well, he's going to need to be very good when he gets up to Chateau d'Eau. It's unusual for someone to pass before the chicane, which finishes the lap, but I have seen it before. They're into Imola, they're coming up to Chateau d'Eau now. Look where Michael Schumacher is, he's got the momentum. It's lap 41 out of 72. I said this race was going to be a cracker when they restarted. My goodness, it certainly is. Frentzen is not giving up, and nor is Canis 4th, truly 5th, Ralf Schumacher 6th. Mika Häkkinen is still out of the points, and Schumacher is right up with the Stewart now. Now is the time for Michael Schumacher to get through as they come up to the Grand Curve. On the inside, is he going to go?
No, he won't get through there, but Häkkinen must think his world's come to an end. He was about to take he took the lead of the race, or about to take the lead of the race, spins off, goes back into 7th place. Now he's got the Irvine's Ferrari all over the back of him, so Häkkinen's afternoon turning around in quite a hurry, and still Barrichello maintains enough lead, and he now breaks up the inside, and there seemed to have been a lot more grip.
Look at Schumacher! Fantastic! Unbelievable!
Rubens, you've got to break later, my friend. And now Schumacher blocks the apex again nicely, but Barrichello gets away. It's almost like Michael was out of gear. It's like Michael was in the wrong gear. So Schumacher came in so deep, I'm not sure he really intended to arrive quite that fast. Look at that.
Watch yourself, Rubens.
Jimmy running well wide. He seems to be under control. And then he's almost stationary. He's looking for a gear or something there. And Rubens comes back on the inside. Good
Lovely
start.
bit of calm, composed driving from Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah, but Michael came from 100 metres back or something.
I couldn't believe it. But he's going to do it again. He's not going to give up. Michael Schumacher, push, 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 looking for those 10 World Championship points. And look at Frentzen. Frentzen is still as close to Schumacher as he was before. And Schumacher's going to have a go again as they come down to complete the lap. This is lap 42, 30 laps to go. Canis is having a go at Frentzen for 3rd position.
Michael also is quicker into the last corner, but he'd be crazy to take a dive there. He knows he's significantly faster than Rubens, and it's only a matter of time. So Michael patiently hanging around there, struggling to get traction out of that last corner, and Frentzen and Panis now closing in on the pair of them.
I hate to remind the Jerry Myers that after the Spanish Grand Prix they were moaning and groaning and whining about dull Formula One. Then we had Montreal, and now we've got this. This is great motor racing.
Now brake on the inside, Rubens. There's a lot more grip. There he goes. Look, yes, he's taken an unusual line where the tarmac is less used, less polished. You get an awful lot more grip there. Rubens just seems to have found that, and suddenly Michael didn't take as much out of him.
Well, my hat comes off and my heart goes out to Rubens Barrichello. If he can resist pressure like he's getting now. And Eddie Irvine has got ahead of Mika Häkkinen, unseen by us.
Look, Michael's got his wheel up the inside and Rubens is having to yield, but there's more grip around the outside, the go-kart line, and Rubens still somehow leads this Grand Prix. What incredible maturity.
And Mika Häkkinen is in real trouble. He was right up at the front. He's now been passed by Eddie Irvine, who, as he did in Montreal, is really on a charge. He's in 7th position ahead of the McLaren. No McLaren in the points, one Ferrari in the points, and the other Ferrari one place behind Jarno Trulli, who is 6th. That's Barrichello leading. Schumacher is 2nd. They're completing lap 43. That's Heinz-Harald Frentzen behind them. So it is Stewart, Ferrari, Jordan, and in the background you see the other Ferrari of Eddie Irvine. There's only 5 seconds covering the first 6 places.
And Michael's got to not let his car run to the outside white line. He's got to stay on the black stuff, and he just does it. So he doesn't lose as much on Barrichello this time. Can Barrichello repeat his better braking up the inside into Adelaide, or will Michael come at him? And here comes Michael, and this time Michael should make it stick. Yes, he does.
Oh, marvellous by both of them. But Michael Schumacher showed the way and leads in France on lap 44. And now Heinz-Harald Frentzen has seen what his countryman has done. He'll be having a go at Rubens Barrichello now. So Ferrari leads, Stewart 2nd, Jordan 3rd, Prost is 4th, Williams is 5th.
Here we go, Murray. Look, Michael coming again from a long way back, and he's just squeezing that brake pedal, not really even attempting to slow down in any big way. Rubens too tentative, and that gave Michael all the space he needed.
Ring the bells in Maranello, because Eddie Irvine, there you see him, is in 6th position. He's in the points. He's past Trulli. He's right up behind Ralf Schumacher's Williams. The first 6 are in the same shot. That's the race leader. Now is Michael Schumacher with 29 laps still to go, 28 laps now still to go. Going to make it 5 wins from 6 French Grand Prix as Eddie Irvine on a replay goes ahead of Jarno Trulli up into 6th position.
Nice move from Irvine, and suddenly the Ferrari's coming alive in the rain, and I think that was very well predicted by James Allen. They could well have put a wet setup on, gambling on that rain later in the race, and now they're absolutely flying. And this Schumacher boy seems pretty handy, Murray,
this Michael Schumacher in the wet is superlative. Remember that incredible win, the first Ferrari win he had in Spain, in conditions that were unspeakable, much worse than we've had today. And then he won at Monaco in the wet. Michael Schumacher, like Rudolf Caracciola before the war, is the German rainmaster, this time in an Italian car, but the skill is just as great as his previous great countryman. And Michael Schumacher is now pulling away, hand over fist, from Rubens Barrichello. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen is having a look at the white steward all the time, wanting that 2nd position, which Frentzen had in Australia, the first race of the year. So now Michael Schumacher's got to keep it quick, but he's got to keep it smooth, and he's got above all else to keep it on the island for 10 World Championship points, which would take him back into the lead of the World Championship. Mika Häkkinen is still only 8th.
Yes, and Irvine, look at the back of this pack, look, crawling all over the back of Ralf Schumacher too now, so Irvine still very much on a charge, but now he's got a lot of cars to pass if he's going to make any impression on his teammate who's currently leading the race. But this is looking a bit sick for McLaren, both in the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship.
Ferrari are already 9 points ahead of McLaren, despite Häkkinen's success at Montreal 2 weeks ago, and Eddie Irvine only being in 3rd position there, and Michael Schumacher out of the points. Ferrari are back here, but I remind you, there's still a long way to go, and we've seen what can happen in this race already. There is Irvine, and ahead of him, behind the Prost there of Olivier Panis, that's Panis, who is in 4th position rounding Adelaide. Behind him is Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, who's driving another fine race, and Eddie Irvine is in the Ferrari behind the Williams. And Ralf Schumacher has already had 4 points positions this year, in the Williams, which is much slower than some of its rivals. It's got a less powerful engine, but Schumacher is making the most of the experience that he now has. I'm talking about Ralf Schumacher in his 40th Grand Prix, and he's not only staying ahead of Eddie Irvine, but he's right up behind Olivier Panis's blue Prost. That is Ralf Schumacher. He is in 5th position. And actually, in these wet conditions, having less power is not going to be nearly as much of a disadvantage as it would have been if it had been a dry race.
It's all about drivability now. It's all about how the power delivery comes from the engine, how flat is the torque curve, and how smoothly you can get some kind of traction down onto this racetrack.
Meantime, up at the front of the race, Michael Schumacher, having taken the lead, has now increased it to 5.5 seconds. Between Barrichello, who is second, and Eddie Irvine, who is in 6th position, there is only 3 seconds. That's how close the race it is. As you look at Barrichello in the white car, Frentzen, who is 3rd in the yellow car, Schumacher accelerating away from the Adelaide hairpin, Prost, Schumacher, Ralf and Irvine. 4th, 5th, 6th, Schumacher's going for it.
Yes, and Ralf there all over the back of Panis, so Panis getting a particularly poor run out of Adelaide hairpin, having to go and defend his line, but still made it down to Nürburgring chicane first. And Eddie Irvine, and with Häkkinen now reclosing on Irvine, as you can see.
Yeah, Mika Häkkinen taking advantage of the fact that whilst Olivier Panis is going very quick, I've got little doubt that Schumacher, Ralf would pull away if he could. Louise Goodman's got some news.
I'm standing here with Damon Hill. Damon, bad into a bad weekend for you.
Pretty typical of this season, unfortunately, but that's the way it can go, and you know, no, I don't really have anything to complain about. I have just a lot of bad luck, but also didn't perform as well as I'd liked either. So a bit of a shame, because actually in the race I think we could have maybe clawed our way through to do something, but because I made a good pit stop at the right time, but then it all went pear-shaped when an arrow's punctured my tyre.
And you're now saying that this could be your last race for Jordan, is that correct?
It may well be, yes. There's some deciding to be done about Silverstone.
Thanks very much, Damon.
Well, Louise Goodman, that is a fantastic statement. Did you hear it, everybody? This could be Damon Hill's last race for Jordan, and therefore as a Formula 1 driver, I hope that's not true. But Eddie Irvine, meantime, with Häkkinen right behind him, and Ralf Schumacher ahead of him, and Panis in the blue car are making a fantastic race of it for 4th position.
Go and talk to him, Murray, after this race. He's got to go to the British Grand Prix. Go and have a word with him, for goodness sake.
There will be tens of thousands of, I use this phrase advisedly, broken-hearted people if Damon decides he doesn't want to drive at Silverstone. I do very sincerely hope that he will, well, maybe he hasn't made his mind up yet, but I'm sure he will think of the fans. They have supported him so magnificently over the years. We're on lap 48 in France. Michael Schumacher is way out in front now.
You see the word Mika on the car there. That's because of the cigarette advertising rules here in France, and they've got drivers' names on both of the McLaren and various other situations on the teams.
Olivier Panis is a bit of a roadblock at the moment. You can see the way everybody is closing up. He is understandably refusing to yield because he wants to catch and get past Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But behind Panis, there's this string of cars now. Panis is 4th, Schumacher is 5th, Irvine is in 6th position. There is the Ferrari. In 7th place, it's Mika Häkkinen, who can't do anything about Eddie Irvine. And Mika Häkkinen would really welcome that one World Championship point. It could make all the difference to the championship at the end of the year, at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka on October the 31st. But Eddie Irvine is going to be a mighty difficult man to pass, because he will know that point that he could retain if he stays ahead of Mika Häkkinen would help not only him but Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. Both the Ferraris are in the top 6 at the present moment, and that is the only constructor that is. Wow, 12 cars left. Of them, 11 are on the same lap. All 12 are on the same lap now. The retirements, in order of retirement, are Johnny Herbert out on the 3rd lap, then Denise Coulthard went out when he was in the lead, Lacey went out when he was 2nd, spun out in the wet, Genet and Wurtz went out because they had problems in the wet. Jacques Villeneuve has retired, so has Zanardi. Another bad race for the Italian. Damon Hill into the garage and out of the race. Is he out of Formula 1? Giancarlo Fisichella has retired the Benetton, so neither of the Benettons are going to finish this race after they'd shown signs of a renaissance when Fisichella finished 2nd in Canada at Montreal 2 weeks ago. This is lap 50 and the Ferrari mechanics are coming out. Now, I presume it's for Michael Schumacher because Eddie Irvine wouldn't, but James, what's the news? James?
The Ferrari, yeah, a lot of activity down here in the Ferrari garage. Irvine's going to come in first. I told you before that the changeover was around the 1:28 mark. We're still around the 1:30 mark in terms of lap times. 1:30 that is. So it's difficult to say what's going to happen here, but Irvine seems to have a set of rain tyres ready for him. But Michael Schumacher's mechanics are getting a set of dry tyres ready for him. There's an awful lot more racing to come here, guys.
Wow, dry tyres, Martin?
Well, look, I mean, he's all over the place on the wets. They're clearly overheating now. They operate, the rubber of the wet tyre is designed to operate in much cooler temperatures. And in fact, you often get more grip with a wetter track than this, than in these kind of sort of half wet dry conditions. You'll see the back end of the car sliding as Michael tries to get some traction. But I wouldn't want to go on slicks yet. These new groove slicks are much harder than they used to be. You always have to wait that little bit longer. I'd have said there's way too much water on the road at the moment for slicks.
I know when you took the King of Spain out in the McLaren two-seater, you said to the Bridgestone technicians you'd like some softer tyres, and they said you've got the softest one there are already.
No, they said you've got the softest ones we're going to give you, buddy. But that's
in comes the Ferrari.
Yes, that's Irvine in the pits, and as James has already pointed out, he will go on to wets. Barrichello there flashing through your picture in 2nd. Frentzen, Ralf Schumacher, Olivier Panis, and now Hakkinen takes over 6th place because of Irvine's pit stop. Hakkinen up there in the final points position at the moment. Decent pit stop there for Irvine. Another set of wets. Off he goes. They heat them to about 50 degrees centigrade as opposed to 80 or 90 for the... That's bad news for Irvine. He's going to go straight out into some traffic, but or behind a BAR, but they heat them to 50 rather than 80, and that's Hakkinen having a go down the outside of, must be Panis, yes?
Yes.
So Hakkinen trying, obviously now finding a bit more confidence and grip and starting to come back again.
Yeah, and Ralf Schumacher is still in 4th position as Hakkinen goes through on the inside. Panis has to yield when he's got a whole of a McLaren alongside him. So Mika Hakkinen is now up into 5th position. He was 7th, and then there's a replay. He was 7th, but then into the pits came 6th position Eddie Irvine. Upper place goes Mika Hakkinen, but as I've said before, it's a bit of a false dawn because Hakkinen has still got to come in for his 2nd stop.
Yes, I think most of them have that he's racing against, but it's quite clear, isn't it? Hakkinen, either Hakkinen or the McLaren is more at home, or indeed both, as the track dries out again.
Absolutely, and it could be the McLaren because we know from James that Michael Schumacher is on a wet setup.
And what's happened to Michael Schumacher, look, he's suddenly got Barrichello right behind him.
Yeah.
So has something happened to Schumacher we haven't seen yet, or has he got some kind of problem? I suspect he's locked a brake somewhere or whatever. Has he done a slow? Yes, he's done a very slow midsection. I think you'll find Schumacher's been off the road somewhere, so hopefully we'll get a replay of that. Now he's got to rebuild that lead.
Yeah, we've seen him go off the road and recover before. And
he lost 8 seconds though. He lost 8 seconds. So he must have had a reasonable trip across the scenery.
It's a heck of a lot. But meantime, you can see the gap visually between himself and Rubens Barrichello. With Frentzen now ever closer to the Stewart in 3rd position. Heinz Harald Frentzen. Ralf Schumacher just a second or so behind. And Mika Hakkinen can see an opportunity now to gain places. But very soon the rest of the leaders will be coming in. We're on lap 52 now, and this is a 72 lap race. Remember the long haul that we have had behind the safety car. I don't think the race is going to anything like 2 hours as a result of the safety car being out. In the 2 hours is the maximum that they will be allowed out on the track. And if the race looks like going longer than 2 hours in order to do the full planned race distance of 72 laps, it would be stopped at the 2 hour mark. So Michael Schumacher leads on lap 52 with 20 laps to go and another pit stop to go. And whatever he did, he seems to be recovering from, because the gap was 0.8 of a second. He's now into his 53rd lap, and the gap is 2.3 seconds. As in comes Ralf Schumacher from 6th position in the Williams. He lost a place, you will recall, to Mika Häkkinen. And now on go another set of wets, of Bridgestone wet weather tyres.
The first little turn of the wheel you saw before Ralf got away properly is as he selects first gear, and it all clunks in and gives the wheel a quick spin despite him having his left foot on the brakes, and that's Ralf making a decent pit stop.
Well, if the Ferrari team get the pit stop wrong, and I don't for one moment expect they will, they are very, very good indeed. It's going to be nip and tuck between Schumacher and Barrichello, assuming that Barrichello's pit stop is a good one, because there's still just about 2 seconds between them. Michael Schumacher leading in the Ferrari on lap 53, and you can see the gap is actually increasing. Here he is.
Yeah, Michael clearly has got a faster car, but he must have made a mistake. Judging by how tentative he was into Adelaide next time around, I suspect he went skating past that to lose his 8 seconds in the middle of that lap. But now he seems struggling for grip as the rear tyres beginning to overheat, and Häkkinen looking menacing again.
It's odd in this age that we haven't had a replay if they caught it, because it would have been something quite dramatic. Anyway, he's now into his 54th lap, he being Schumacher. Look at the battle for second behind him. Barrichello has got Frentzen right up behind him. Frentzen has got the Prost right behind.
You can see in the pit lane they're getting another steering wheel ready for what must be Michael Schumacher's pit stop. So maybe he didn't go off the road. Maybe he just had some kind of gear selection problem. Remember when he first passed? James, what can you tell us?
Well, it's absolutely right, Martin. I don't know what sort of crystal ball you've got up there, but it's obviously a very expensive one. They've got Ignazio Lunetta, his race engineer, has got a spare steering wheel ready. Now, we've seen this a number of times with Ferrari where Schumacher's had gear selection difficulties. I was listening to him as he accelerated out of the final corner past me in the pits, and he was short shifting on the lap where he lost all that time. I think it's possibly the problem he had in that hairpin as well. He was looking for a gear, it wasn't there for him. I can tell you one other thing is that when he stops, he's putting wets on.
Thank you, James. You may be wondering why on earth he's going to change a steering wheel if he's got an engine problem. The answer is that so many of the functions on the car these days are controlled from the steering wheel that if you change it, you get better connections. And there's the confirmation. The new wheel, it'll only take a second or so to slot into position. He won't lose any time on top of the fuel stop and the tyres. And now look at Frentzen with Mika Häkkinen right up behind him. They've just scrambled past Tora Takagi. Rubens Barrichello did so better, as a result of which there's a gap, and that's Irvine off the course. He was in 8th position, and into the pits comes Michael Schumacher. Now
let's watch him
Eddie
stop.
Irvine's stop took 7 seconds.
He's got, I wonder if the engine stops if they change the wheel. No, it doesn't. They've got that one off to a fine art, haven't they? Does he? I don't think they have to restart the engine. Michael's got it on. He says, yeah, it's fine, let's go.
Oh,
no, the engine's not running.
Not go.
Oh, no,
yes.
It took a while to get some kind of gear. So Michael with 13 seconds.
He's lost 6 seconds, Martin, on that stop compared with Eddie Irvine. So now the race leader is Rubens Barrichello.
And this is for second. This is for second, Murray. Look, Häkkinen with a chance up the inside of Frentzen. He's getting a bit wiser now as the race goes on. Keeps a middle line and very much keeps that second place.
Olivier Panis darting about all over the circuit, trying to find some wet tarmac, because he's only made one stop. His tyres are overheating. He's looking paradoxically for some water to drive through to cool them down.
Yes, and well, we saw Schumacher definitely put wets on again, and that's got to have been the right decision. And here's a replay of Irvine about to take a trip across the grass. I suspect he locks his front left going into 180 and just can't, just drifts wider and wider and wider. I've been across that bit more than a few times, and it just sucks you in. You just cannot get away from it. And you go around the outside, it fills all the radiator ducts up with stones, but it's not too much of a problem. They come out in the next 2 or 3 braking zones. Race leader, Rubens Barrichello. Second, Frentzen. Third, Häkkinen. Fourth, Olivier Panis. And Michael Schumacher back in the race. Look for the Ferrari in the background. There is the Prost. Remember that Michael Schumacher lost an extra 6 seconds as a result of that fuel stop. This is lap 56 with Mika Häkkinen trying to improve from 4 World Championship points for 3rd position to 6 for 2nd. Eddie Jordan turning away there. I think he probably knows that Häkkinen's got enough speed to at least get alongside Frentzen. They're not in the picture at the moment. They should come into view very close together, and Frentzen's got a nice line down the middle there, I have to say, and he just seems to have aced it finally in there, and Häkkinen getting a good run round the outside. I'd be surprised if he's got enough grunt to out-drag that Jordan down to Nürburgring, and in fact he hasn't. Frentzen closes the door quite legally and quite safely. Mika Häkkinen will respect that move, and it's still Stewart leading, Jordan leading McLaren. They've both still got to come in and make another stop. Olivier Panis has got to do the same thing. He's in 4th position. There he was. Jarno Trulli is now 5th. Michael Schumacher is still in the points despite that long pit stop of his. He's in 6th position with the advantage of having had his 2nd and final stop. But depending on the time that the others take, this race is going to be mighty close at the end. Coming up to complete lap 56 out of 72. I tell you who's looking good, little Barrichello. He just keeps there at a sensible pace, and everybody else around him is having problems. We saw Michael with a long pit stop. If Barrichello can get a good pit stop in, he should lead this race, unless Schumacher's out there doing stunning lap times. We haven't looking for his lap time. Yeah, he hasn't done a complete lap yet, other than his out laps from the pit. So we've got to wait another 30-40 seconds before we get a picture of Michael's actual raw speed. And here's Häkkinen with a better chance than ever. Oh wow, getting right up underneath his gearbox. Frentzen now is trying to pinch him, and look at that. Häkkinen didn't have enough speed. And Heinz Harold, that was magnificent. No, it wasn't. Deep. He's gone in too deep. Heinz Harold Frentzen, I was just going to say that's magnificent, but Mika Häkkinen was even better. The last of the late breakers, and Mika Häkkinen takes 2nd position from Heinz Harold Frentzen with a gap of 2 seconds between him and the Stewart ahead, and there is Frentzen running wide, Häkkinen nipping through. Yes, what happens, I mean, Frentzen has just got a whole bunch more aggressive going in there now in these last few laps, but unfortunately for him, as the downforce bleeds away, it's very easy in the wet to snatch a front brake just at the last moment, and you lose a lot of retardation, and you have to run wide. Well, Häkkinen is marginally quicker than Barrichello at the moment. We don't know if Rubens has got anything in reserve, but here they are, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. We've got to leave for a few moments. We'll make it as short as possible. Be back soon. Lap 59, look at this battle for the lead between Rubens Barrichello and Mika Häkkinen, who has caught him, but Michael Schumacher is in 5th place, having made his 2nd stop. Here's a replay of Häkkinen trying. This is 4 or 5 seconds before you came back with this, and really Rubens giving Häkkinen the space, as he did Coulthard earlier on, but then just keeping his head. Remember, Häkkinen spun in exactly that kind of situation earlier in the race, and Rubens just calmly driving around the outside. Häkkinen with the significantly faster car at this stage of the race, and well, this race just keeps turning around all the way through. Yeah, and watch Heinz Harold Frentzen. You'll see the yellow Jordan in a moment. He's not giving up. Behind him is Jarno Trulli, who is yet to stop. Olivier Panis is down into 7th position from 4th, but he's had his 2nd stop. Race order now as you watch this battle. Barrichello leads Häkkinen, Frentzen 3rd, Trulli 4th, and he's in the pits. Michael Schumacher will go up to 4th position ahead of his brother, Ralf Schumacher. Right, Häkkinen got a better drive through the middle of Estoril, and that's going to get him in front of Barrichello long before the braking area. Lovely. So Häkkinen takes the lead. Michael Schumacher's speed, remember he had a 13-second pit stop, didn't really come out and set the world alight with his lap times, as Häkkinen Hakkinen defends that lead. Barrichello's still getting a nice drive out, but no way he'll get back at Hakkinen from there. And can Michael Schumacher go fast enough to make up for that slow pit stop and end up back in the lead of the race when it's all shuffled through and everybody has stopped?
Well, Heinz-Harald Frentzen was actually the fastest man on that previous lap, as Hakkinen charged up alongside Barrichello.
Yes, I think these two slowed each other up a little bit as they had to wait, and it would be very easy to lock a wheel here and just run into the other car. So Hakkinen quite cautious from this point on. He's got the corner, and then he actually is very, very cautious. Probably a bit nervous of that white line again where he spun. He goes round the outside of it, and Barrichello says, well, I'll have a go, but he hasn't got enough speed or advantage to get ahead down into Nürburgring chicane. And this is Michael Schumacher, currently running 5th, but he has already pitted.
Yes, and he's only 5.7 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen, in spite of the fact that his pit stop was 6 seconds longer than his teammate Eddie Irvine, who's now down in 8th position. As we ride with Frentzen, look ahead, and you'll see Barrichello's car ahead of him. You can see Mika Hakkinen's car. We're with the 3rd placed Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, well and truly in the points again. And off goes De La Rosa in the arrows, and he is down in 11th position. Well, as he kept his engine running, it's very difficult. This is what happened. Frentzen came up alongside him.
Oh, look, that's a problem for Frentzen. He can't get the thing to change down. Look, he's stuck in a higher gear, and now he's got it on the cam and he's away. But has he got any gears? Yes, it's shifting up okay, but he's gone up the inside, look, and ended up with a box full of neutrals.
Look at De La Rosa's wing, front wing.
Yeah, I think De La Rosa, we saw him going off through the gravel, didn't we, and having that spin as a replay. And then we've cut to this, which is Frentzen with no apparent, I think he kept dipping the clutch, and it was in too long a gear, so no downshift there for the Jordan, but it appears to be okay now.
Well, he's still on 4 World Championship points. He's still in 3rd position. We're on lap 61 out of 72. Mika Hakkinen in the lead, 2.7 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Heinz-Harald Frentzen seems to me as though he's still got a problem.
No, it's changing okay now. It's doing all the normal things now. I think it's just so slow because there's so little grip, but that arrows is not doing him too many favours. The arrows goes in the pits, so that solves that problem in a hurry, and Frentzen appears to live for another day.
Well, into the pits comes Pedro de la Rosa, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen is still in a podium position.
Hakkinen 2 seconds faster than Michael Schumacher on that last lap, so yeah, Hakkinen all of a sudden from slipping way back now looks like the man.
Yeah, what he's doing of course is to go as quickly as he possibly can to try to build the gap for when he comes into the pits, because this pit stop is going to be absolutely crucial. The first 3 have yet to stop the second time. Hakkinen, Barrichello and Frentzen. Michael Schumacher is in 4th position. He's now 14 seconds behind Hakkinen. But it's going to be mighty, mighty close, because remember, as I've said before, it's not just the 7 seconds or so that you're stationary as Zonta comes into the pits from 9th position. It is the time you take slowing down and then accelerating out, and it's quite a slow entry to the pits.
What have they put on that? Have they put? They look like they put slicks on that car, have they? Yes, they have. They've just put the groove slicks. But interesting to see how long he stays on the road. We'll have a look in a minute. But the Ferrari and McLaren teams will be watching that. I was a bit of a long distance away, but I still think they were slicks.
He's ahead of the Prost, and he's closing on Michael Schumacher, his brother, in the Williams. He's only 6 seconds behind him.
Now, hang on, Mary. That's Irvine scrapping with Panis. He has just passed Panis. So Irvine back on a roll again in 7th place, out of the points at the moment.
Yeah, and so Eddie Irvine is battling for that 6th and last World Championship point. 1 World Championship point with Olivier Panis trying to resist him, and I don't think he will. Eddie Irvine in the extremely powerful Ferrari. Mika Hakkinen leads. When is he coming in? Is he coming in? Yes, he must be coming in.
I don't think he's round the other side of the circuit, but I don't think we're going to see them having to pit, the leaders having to pit for slicks. I think the 10 laps to go, they ought to be able to somehow find enough life in those tyres to go through to the end of the lap. Let's see. It's nip and tuck, I would think, whether it's worth coming in for slicks. And that's why, if I was right about Zonta going out on slicks, all the teams will be very interested in his progress.
Louise, what's the news?
Yeah, the news I have is certainly that Heinz Harald Frenzen's Jordan and perhaps Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart can go to the end of the race without another stop. Certainly in terms of fuel, they don't have to come in again for more fuel.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's going to be mighty interesting to see. We're on lap 63 now, 9 laps to go, including the one they are on. And there is the race leader. Now his tyres will be getting very, very tired indeed. Mika Häkkinen going through into his 64th lap. And Rubens Barrichello, now we're with Frentzen, he's in 3rd position, and he's catching Rubens Barrichello. That white car you see going through the turn 14 is Rubens Barrichello ahead of us in the Stewart in 2nd position, as we now look at Heinz Harald Frentzen, who is 16 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. It looks as though Michael Schumacher's not going to finish on the podium unless one of the 3 ahead of him comes in.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher's 4 seconds a lap slower than Mika Häkkinen now, so maybe Michael's still got some kind of gear shift problem. We've seen them change the steering wheel trying to fix it, but maybe it just didn't work.
Well, if Mika Häkkinen wins this race, it's going to be a quite incredible achievement. I say again, he started from 14th, but look at the way that Heinz Harald Frentzen is closing on Rubens Barrichello. You can see the gap coming down. He's lapping to nearly 2.5 seconds faster than the Stewart ahead of him. Frentzen, who finished 2nd in Australia and 3rd in Brazil, and he's had a 4th place as well to give him that 4th position in the World Championship, is charging. We're charging off for a few moments. We'll be back. Sensation at Magny-Cours. Welcome back. Listen.
Yes, Barrichello's just made a pit stop, and so has Mika Häkkinen. So Häkkinen, I believe, it's all just shaking out as we talk. Häkkinen has been in the pits, and now you see Häkkinen coming in for a late splash and dash. They changed the tyres, and it seemed a pretty good pit stop for a while for Mika Häkkinen. Then he seemed to take an eternity to pull away. Got it into gear, look, and then had to wait another couple of seconds before actually pulling out. And Heinz Harald Frentzen now leads this Grand Prix. So Frentzen beats him out of there. You see Häkkinen rejoining the racetrack. Frentzen leading, and in the background you saw Barrichello making his pit stop. So once again it's all turning around, and the Ferraris come into play again.
And we're on lap 66 out of 72 in this incredible race. Mika Häkkinen is into the pits and changed, and as a result of that, Heinz Harald Frentzen leads. Rubens Barrichello is 2nd. Michael Schumacher there is in 3rd place, ahead of his brother Ralf Schumacher, with Eddie Irvine in the points in the 2nd Ferrari. It's absolutely mega in the closing stages at Magny-Cours. And look how close they are. Barrichello, he's 2nd. Schumacher 3rd. Ralf Schumacher 4th.
Oh, Ralf misses his braking point and goes across the green tarmac there. That used to be all gravel. They make it too easy for these drivers these days. You should have poles in there with spikes.
He won't suffer.
Yeah, he won't suffer at all. In fact, it looked a bit quicker, didn't it?
Yeah.
So Ralf stays on track. It's Frentzen leading actually from Häkkinen. Barrichello is 3rd. Will Frentzen have to stop for fuel? Has Häkkinen got the speed to catch and repass Heinz Harald Frentzen for the umpteenth time this afternoon?
Who is on lap 67, then 68, 69, 70, 71 and 72. It's going to be a mighty, mighty close finish. As you look at Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, ahead of Irvine, behind his brother in the Ferrari. Well, this has been a quite incredible French Grand Prix, no matter what happens from now on. And Ralf Schumacher's driving another fine race. He's only just off the podium. He could still end up on the podium the way things are going, because I would be moderately surprised if they all finish. Well, there is a replay of Ralf Schumacher taking to the concrete, not the grass. But he doesn't suffer because he didn't actually have an advantage. He didn't pass anybody as we rejoin Heinz Harald Frentzen, who is now on his 68th lap.
Identical lap time to Häkkinen on that tour, and they're 2.3 seconds apart. You can see for yourself now, 2.369, so nip and tuck.
Louise, what is it?
I can tell you that Frentzen is definitely not coming in. Frentzen not coming in again, so provided he keeps it on the black stuff, looks like he's going to win this race.
Well, let's not count our chickens before they're hatched, especially for Eddie Jordan. Jordan have only won one Grand Prix since they started in 1997, and that was Damon Hill, who won magnificently in Belgium last year. And Frentzen is getting a bit agitated. He's coming up behind Luca Badoa in the Minardi, who's in 10th place, and he goes through now. Well, he's ahead of him now. Mika Häkkinen has got to do the same thing. Frentzen, who, as I said earlier on, has taken to Jordan like a duck takes to water, and now Schumacher, Ralph, is resisting Eddie Irvine and trying to catch his brother. And this is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th place. This is a race which is very difficult to keep up with. Action all the way, lap 68.
Yes, and remember how much time Frentzen lost when he had the wrong gear in the hairpin, when the car wouldn't downshift properly. So Frentzen, at some point or other, Jordan had made a very smart move during that safety car period of tanking up their car, filling it up with fuel, and that's put Frentzen in a very strong position, and he's just pulled another second away into the lead. His lead's now 3.2 seconds.
But Martin, why isn't Michael Schumacher getting away from his brother in the far less powerful Williams better?
But I think Michael's carrying some kind of problem. Remember, they changed the steering wheel. We know he lost 8 seconds on one lap or whatever, and ever since that point of the race, Michael's not really been in any kind of shape in terms of lap time.
Irvine looking to get past Schumacher, Ralph, and if he does so, it will help Michael Schumacher, because Eddie Irvine won't finish in front of the German. You can be quite sure of that because of team orders. So if he can get ahead, he can protect the gap between himself and the Williams. So we're on lap 69. Frentzen is leading Häkkinen in this 72-lap race by just over 3 seconds. Barrichello is in 3rd place. You're seeing the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th between Michael Schumacher, Ferrari, Ralf Schumacher, there he is, Eddie Irvine, there he is, out of Adelaide.
That's a pretty tense battle, isn't it? Ralph's going to be rather nervous of locking a brake and slamming into the back of his brother. They have run into each other before at the Nürburgring, but clearly Michael, I think, is just about the slowest of those three, actually, and Irvine the latest on the brakes, so there might be a few tears here in these last few laps of the French Grand Prix. And meanwhile, Frentzen looking very, very strong up front. I think he's going to take another second out of Häkkinen on this lap. So Frentzen, if Louise is right, and I'm sure she is, he's not stopping again, he is very much sailing towards a win for Jordan.
Well, the gap between Barrichello and Michael Schumacher is only about 4 seconds. Incidentally, when Martin was talking about the Nürburgring, that was the Nürburgring in Germany, not the Nürburgring corners here. The corners here are named after different circuits. Oh,
yes,
and Eddie Irvine goes through. Eddie Irvine goes through.
Very, very cheeky, but it is possible. He just proved it. But Ralph's the one who gets the grip out of the corner, and it didn't count after all that. But a typical Irvine move.
Eddie Irvine has given notice to Ralf Schumacher, but he wants that 5th position, which he had momentarily. Here he goes on a replay, dives through on the inside of the Williams, closes up on his teammate Michael Schumacher, and then Ralf pays him back.
Yes, you can have it on the way in, or you can have it on the way out. You can't have both. And which Ferrari is that? That's Ralf going down the outside of Michael. So Michael definitely got some kind of pace problem. Can Ralf find some traction and get ahead of Michael? Yes, he can. He's going to beat Michael down to the Nürburgring chicane. Something wrong with that Ferrari.
Yeah, that'll be an aftermath of this. And now Eddie Irvine has just got to maintain station. This will enable Ralf Schumacher to pull away in that 4th position and consolidate it. Eddie Irvine's going through.
He's not allowed to do that in his contract, is he? He won't be allowed to do that, for sure.
I don't know. It's not inconceivable that. Well, it doesn't make any difference to Ferrari, of course, whether Schumacher finishes 5th or...
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. For the World Championship, Murray. I mean, they'll be wanting Michael to get maximum points in the squabble.
I withdraw, you're right.
With Mika on that, but Irvine cheekily coming up the inside of Michael. He'll be getting the call in a minute.
Well, now,
stay away, because he has to contractually.
Yeah, we haven't lost sight of what's happening at the front. Frentzen is on his last lap but one, and he's 5 seconds ahead ahead of Mika Häkkinen. It looks as though we are indeed going to see a famous and incredible second historic Jordan win in Formula One here at Magny-Cours in France in 1999. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is on lap 71 in the 72-lap race. He's increasing his lead over Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen would be very disappointed to lose the win, but he's going to finish ahead of his World Championship rival Michael Schumacher and thereby increase his lead in the World Championship.
Well, is this going to rub salt in Damon Hill's wounds or what? If he did pull out of this race like he was suggesting, and it is his final race, just to add very much insult to injury, Frentzen looks like he could well win it in the same car.
And look, Irvine is... we're with Frentzen now. This is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who started his Grand Prix career driving for the Swiss Sauber team in Formula One in 1994. He drove for them in 1995 and 1996. He switched to Williams in 97, where he won the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. He wasn't a happy man.
Sorry, Murray, but he was completely, nearly on opposite lock in the middle of that corner. Well out of shape. Mick has dropped back. He's 7 seconds behind now. Häkkinen given up the fight, so Frentzen on his merry way. Sorry to interrupt, Murray, but he was well out of shape.
That's all right. I was just giving a bit of history to say that he drove for Williams last year. He wasn't a happy man. He joined Jordan this year, and my goodness has he been pleased. Second in Australia, third in Brazil. This is going to be 10 World Championship points if he can just bring the Jordan home for these last few corners, and there would be no justice if he could not. Remember, they're getting out into the pit lane now. Eddie Jordan nearly in tears of worry because Heinz-Harald Frentzen comes out of the right-hander very shortly at Chateau d'Eau. He will then only have the drop down to the chicane, turn 12, turns 13 and 14, to win the Grand Prix here at France in absolutely scintillating form after having fought every inch of the way. And he's out of Chateau d'Eau now. This is an historic moment. Heinz-Harald Frentzen clears the chicane, lines up the last corner, and Jordan and Heinz-Harald Frentzen win in France. Magnificent. Wow, what a French Grand Prix.
Well, it's amazing. Remember, McLaren had it in the bag early on, then it had a big change around and Ferrari looked like the team, then McLaren again, and Jordan ended up winning the race. Barrichello was the only other main contender all the way through. Somehow, Frentzen has come through and won the race.
Indeed he has, with Mika Häkkinen in second position. This is both Jordan's and Heinz-Harald Frentzen's second race. Here is Rubens Barrichello coming home in a worthy third position after having led the race so stalwartly for so long.
Yes, Barrichello on the podium, and well, let's remember one thing. The Jordan team very much won that race because they had the forethought to fill the car up and not have to pit again. That is what won the race. Louise is with Eddie Jordan.
Eddie, what a day. I can't believe it. One Jordan driver, one announced his retirement. The win, first of all.
Well, I think we seem to like the wet weather. I think that's quite obvious. And, I mean, after last week in Canada, Heinz-Harald really... What can I say? It was a good strategic plan. I don't know why, but the pace car just suited us and we just thought we had enough fuel to get to the end. And strategically from the team, it was a brilliant move. But, I mean, what can you say about Heinz-Harald Frentzen? He never made a mistake all weekend. And truly phenomenal drive.
But what about this news from Damon that this could be his last race? Surely you're not going to let him not appear at Silverstone.
You know, these decisions have to be made by the driver at the time, and I'm aware of what he said. It was reported to me. Damon is truly one of the best people I've ever met, and everybody, but everybody, must respect his wishes, and only he can make that decision. And whatever they are, I support him.
For now, Eddie, back to the celebrations. Well done.
Well, I'll tell you what you can say, Eddie Jordan. You can say that Heinz-Harald Frentzen has become a superstar. As Ian Phillips is as euphoric as Eddie Jordan. We go for a break, but we'll be back for the celebrations. Well, one of the ambassadors of Ireland, His Excellency Edmund Jordan, has welcomed his driver, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, home as the winner, a brilliant, very worthy winner of the French Grand Prix. His second career win after winning the San Marino Grand Prix for his previous team, Williams. Mika Häkkinen, very happy actually with his second position, because it increases his World Championship lead over Michael Schumacher to 8 points from the 4 points that he had. And here they are, winner Heinz-Harald Frentzen, third position Rubens Barrichello blowing a happy kiss to one and all of us as he walks off with Mika Häkkinen's arm around him. Well, Martin, I'm almost at a loss for words. Fantastic race.
It was up and down, wasn't it? It was McLaren, then it was Ferrari. Barrichello there all the way through, and the Jordan team really pulled this one off with that pit stop strategy and getting enough fuel in the car, and Frentzen making it stick. He was a bit, if you remember in the early part of the race, I thought he was a bit overcautious. People were passing him too easily. Then he toughened up as the race went on, and well, he took a good victory in the end, and in a fascinating race.
Well, here are the top 6 who scored points. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who, by the way, did not get the fastest lap. David Coulthard did when he was in the lead. Poor compensation, but I suppose at least some for a race he might have won had he not had his car problem. Mika Häkkinen second, 11 seconds behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Rubens Barrichello third, so it was a win for Jordan. Second place for McLaren, third for Stewart. Fourth for the Williams of Ralf Schumacher ahead of the 2 Ferraris. Michael Schumacher fifth and Eddie Irvine sixth, as you look at Michael Douglas, who is here and is going to be awarding the trophy to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the winning driver. Well, dear me. Well, there's the chief mechanic of the Jordan team, and that's Paul Stoddart, the European Aviation Company, who's supporter of Jordan, and Eddie himself shaking hands with Michael Douglas. Eddie's going to be here to receive the trophy for the winning constructor as Erja Häkkinen, Mika's wife, watches, supported by Norbert Haug, and Pedro de la Rosa and Tora Takagi walk in. Now, Ferrari still lead the Constructors' Championship by 6 points from McLaren. Jordan are now still third with 26 points ahead of Williams. They've increased the gap, and the German national anthem sounds out for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the winner in France. Very happy man with Mika Häkkinen still leading the World Championship by an increased margin from Michael Schumacher as the British national anthem sounds out for Jordan, the winning constructor. call and apologise to everybody in the Republic of Ireland, the team of Jordan. My sincere apologies. Eddie Jordan nearly in tears as he sings the words he knows so well. And Michael Douglas gives the winning trophy to Heinz Harold Frentzen, who raises it high. A great race. Frentzen the winner. Hakkinen second, Barrichello third. Jordan win, McLaren second, Stewart a superb third. Then Ralf Schumacher in the Williams ahead of the two Ferraris of Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine. Fastest lap to David Coulthard, but the team of the day, the Irish team, Eddie Jordan's. What a great race. Well done, Rubens.
Congratulations, the Champagne.
Well, they're probably pretty wet already after that race, but it's a great way to finish it. The Champagne as we go for a break.
What an absolutely phenomenal race over there in Manicourt. Let's just check how things look now with the drivers' standings. And Mika Hakkinen is now 8 points clear of Michael Schumacher. Heinz Harold Frentzen a clear fourth behind Eddie Irvine, then Ralf Schumacher and Giancarlo Fisichella. Tony Jardine always give you the easy jobs, don't we? Sum that little lot up for us.
Well, just an amazing race. You couldn't keep up with the passing manoeuvres. It was like the M25 on a Friday night, people rushing home. It was totally unreal, but tactics was something else. Those that stayed out longest as the track dried, waiting for those second stops, and the skills of the drivers in the wet must be appreciated. If you saw any of those onboard cars, shots from the cars, imagine being in there yourself. Unbelievable.
Wonderful day for Frentzen.
Frentzen coming back from a big accident. He's not tested at all. He recuperated with his mother in Spain, and he's come back very bruised and battered to lead. And big problem, I think, for Eddie Jordan now. He's got one coming man and one going man in Damon. What's he going to do?
Yeah, who knows? Well, let's have a little word about our competition, shall we? We've teamed up with our RAC Motoring Services to give you a fantastic prize, a VIP weekend for two at Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time, and 5 pairs of tickets available for the runners-up. Just hope it's a little bit drier this time around.
We want you to answer this question. What was so unusual about the 1998 RAC British Grand Prix? Was it A, the race was won behind the safety car, B, bad weather stopped the race, or C, the race was won in the pit lane? The race won behind the safety car, bad weather stopped the race, or the race was won in the pit lane? If you think you know the answer, this is the number to dial. 0891 22 9966. 0891 22 9966. The lines close at midnight on Wednesday, and the very best of luck to you all.
Yes, good luck with that one. Highlights tonight from Manicourt, and of course more analysis from Tony Jardine, the views of the drivers as well. 11:45 tonight here on ITV. So the result of the French Grand Prix, a win for Heinz Harold Frentzen, Mika Hakkinen world champion second, Rubens Barrichello third for Stewart, Ralf Schumacher for Williams, Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine making his point for Ferrari. But in the end, a famous win for Heinz Harold Frentzen, a triumph for the Jordan teamwork and strategy, really the pinnacle of a brilliant season for the German.
I noticed that the guys around me must have been less fuel, because initially they pulled away quite quickly. But luckily then the pace car came in, and then we had time for the radio conversations to the pits, talking about the strategy, and I knew that I was then pretty heavy on fuel. It was pretty tight. That I had to save a little bit of fuel in one stage to make it to the end, but we have good radio communications, and the communication worked out perfectly.
When it started raining, that was not one of my best moments, and particularly because I spun, and I lost obviously a lot of time, and that is the obviously reason why I'm sitting here today in second position. But after all, it doesn't matter. It was great fun.
It was a great battle, yeah, and I enjoy. I hope to be more and more there, because as having a competitive car, I'm sure we can be there quite often.
6 points for Mika Häkkinen then, and that increases his lead over Michael Schumacher. Irvine still third, but Frentzen has closed right up on the Irishman. A pretty bad day all round for Ferrari. McLaren are now just 6 points behind them. Jordan's maximum puts them clearly third. Williams, thanks to the consistent Ralf Schumacher, well, they overtake Benetton. Absolutely magnificent race, Tony Jardine. So much going on.
It was a thrilling race, and there was so much activity. What was thrilling for me about that whole thing was the conditions were so dire. And you saw tremendous, tremendous car control from the guys. Can you imagine trying to drive in no visibility whatsoever? They must have been looking for the little markers at the side of the track. It was unbelievable. 55 garden hoses on your face all at once.
I don't know what David Coulthard has done this season, but he's having absolutely miserable luck, isn't he?
Absolutely dreadful. From 4th place on the grid, he was the best British hope, and this is the second of his great charging manoeuvres to go into the lead, the second of his replays. And down from 190 miles per hour, what does he have to do to get reliability? Uprated engine from Mercedes for this particular race. Look at him there, in great forceful form, as he was in Canada. And then he retired very shortly afterwards. Now, you know, he's stuck in 6th in Australia, gearbox went in Monte Carlo, here we are out again. He needs a win to restore his confidence.
Terrifically pleased for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. His transformation virtually complete, but there was a bit of in-car footage and we thought, hello, he's had it, he's finished.
Yeah, Pedro de la Rosa, who's trying to get round him and lap him, and there you see on the inside, fabulous. And suddenly he's all revs and no cogs, he can't get in. Whether he'd missed the paddle, whether there was a little bit of water in the electronic system on there, it starts to clear again. And of course, the heart of Heinz-Harald Frentzen must have started beating again. So, but that was a dodgy moment for Jordan.
This was supposed to be a yawn of a Grand Prix, wasn't it? They all knew the circuit and they were going to dawdle around and give us no instance whatsoever. It was hard to find out who was actually in the lead at many given points, but there was one absolutely crucial pit stop, wasn't there?
Very crucial indeed, and they both came in at the same time. It was Mika Häkkinen and Rubens Barrichello. 7.7 seconds here for this Mika Häkkinen stop. And there was a little bit of a jitter here. It seemed to just hang on for a little bit. Had he got it in gear? Not sure. And away he gone. Should have been a little bit faster that. Rubens as well. Meanwhile, Heinz-Harald Frentzen just surfed straight past into the lead and goes on to cruise for his second ever Grand Prix win and the second ever win for Jordan Grand Prix. Absolutely fantastic.
But bittersweet for Jordan. Just to talk finally about Damon Hill, all the papers, the Monday papers, will be full of, is Damon Hill going to quit? Is he going to carry on? What would you think?
Well, the situation's exacerbated because you've got the coming man, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the going man, potentially, Damon Hill. He must be so upset by that result and so disheartened by it. But if I was the sponsors, if I was the team, I would plead with Damon Hill to go to the British Grand Prix, then sort something out after Silverstone. If he gets a good result, perhaps he'll stay on for the rest of the season, which I believe he should do to help the team maintain its third place in the Constructors.
Tony, thanks very much indeed. So here's your complete rundown of a captivating race. Frentzen first, super for Jordan. Häkkinen's best ever result in France. Barrichello third, terrific drive. Ralf Schumacher fourth again, carrying Williams single-handed. Then Big Brother, followed by teammate Irvine. Trulli and Panis just out of the points for Prost. First finish for Zonta in the BAR. Badoa 10th, same as Canada. Takagi and De La Rosa, the last official finishers in the Arrows. Fisichella spun. Hill's engine went a few laps after Zanardi. Villeneuve, Wirtz and Genet all crashed out. Alesi spun just before the safety car appeared. Electrics finished the unlucky David Coulthard and Deniz. And Johnny Herbert was first to depart the French Grand Prix. Well, Canada was excellent. Manicourt, simply magnifique. But there's no place like home.
Schumacher leads!
full ITV service, starting with Murray and Martin F1 special, 11:30 Friday night. An hour later, if you're watching in the London weekend region, qualifying will be live on the Saturday. Our programme starting at 12:15 and the race live from midday on Sunday. Highlights at 11:45. Well, the Jordan team have only got to pop across the road to get to Silverstone. Heinz-Harald Frentzen goes there on top of the world. Let's hope we see Damon Hill in action as well. Good night to you all.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by Level 3 Communications is www.itv-f1.com.